He was the most promising prodigy mage in history, but now he was imprisoned like a criminal. His name was Li Yun, the youngest son of the Sermin family, a renowned noble house on the continent of Dri, but since he could speak, he had been struck by the curse of the demon king Archon, causing him to be unable to use any swordsmanship or magic. Moreover, that once peaceful and prosperous family suddenly fell into ruin. After his father and brothers sequentially disappeared mysteriously, at the moment everything collapsed, Li Yun was captured by the Padong family, and tortured to death in a gruesome manner. But when he opened his eyes, he was no longer in the real world, but standing in an endless battlefield, a place also called the Arena of the Gods Adian. Here, the gods summon strangers from across the universe, then assign each person a random vocation to fight and survive. But with a large number of ancient monsters in Adian, no player can survive more than 7 days. But Li Yun somehow miraculously awakened the master profession in the craft. Ghost King, thanks to it, he mastered all job lines like assassin, necromancer and spirit fiend. Therefore, Li Yun easily survived more than 3 months in the endless battlefield. But his second life also quickly ended, after he challenged a god of destruction, although he ultimately failed. But his story was not over. Before dissolving, the god granted him a wish. When he woke up again, Li Yun returned to the age of 12, and moreover, he retained the privileges of a player. Suddenly the noise in his ears caused Li Yun to slowly wake up. Before him was a worried-faced girl shouting something. Her voice was piercing. "Young master," his eyes snapped open. Li Yun sat up. Colin panicked. "You're still weak yet you keep overworking yourself." He looked at her bewildered. "Miss Colin, the wet nurse of the sermons, why is she in front of me like this, and in her youthful appearance too? Light shone upon the Sermin manor, could it be?" He turned to Colin. "Colin, hand me the mirror quickly." She fumbled and handed the mirror over. Yes. He took it. In the mirror was his youthful face. Li Yun turned to her. "Colin, what is today's date?" She was puzzled by his question but still answered, "Yes, it is August 17th, 1892 by the Dri calendar." He looked at his hands full of surprise. 1892. Sweat poured down his face. Was this really the year I was 12? It was also the time. A flame burst up before his eyes. His pupils reflected the scene before him. Panic surged within him. Tiny sparks appeared around. The noble Sermin family began to walk the path of ruin under Faton's hand. The image of the Adian god appeared. "I will grant you one wish." Thinking of that, Li Yun bit his lip. Have I really returned to that moment? At that moment a foot stepped forward. A hum echoed. An old man entered, cutting off his thoughts. Seeing the young master still not up, I thought he was pretending to be ill again. Li Yun's eyes widened in astonishment. The man was Alejandro, captain of the Sermin cavalry. He continued, "It seems the young master is truly unwell." He raised his hand. "Then you may skip training today." Colin turned her head. "I told you so." But he cut her off. She heard his words and suddenly glanced at him. Alejandro was no less surprised by his words. Li Yun smirked, a confident smile on his face. "I'm fine." He turned to him. "What are we training today?" He thought to himself, "I told him to rest and he says he's fine." Then he answered, "Today is longsword practice." Watching him stand, Alejandro was doubtful. "Are you really the young master I know?" Li Yun grabbed the wooden sword on the rack. "Yes, I am Li Yun." He was so astonished he could not speak. The wish to turn back time. The shadow of the former Dark King appeared behind Li Yun. "Forget swordsmanship. Today I want to hunt monsters." His eyes filled with excitement. "This is the chance, a chance for me to fix everything." Light shone upon the Sermin family manor. The system panel appeared. Level 1, Strength 7, Agility 5, Endurance 3, Mana none, Curse SS. Due to the Demon King's curse cannot use mana and always haunted by monsters. Li Yun thought to himself, "Lucky the status panel, I can still use it, even though I've returned to the past. At present this is the only ability I have that no one else on this continent possesses." At that moment Alejandro entered. "Young master, the monsters are prepared." He quickly turned off the status panel. Everyone together stepped out into the yard. In front of him was a ferocious goblin roaring. It saw Li Yun as if seeing food and flailed clumsily toward him. He raised his sword which made it fearful and stop its motion. Alejandro, Colin and the servant stood at a distance watching him. She turned to him and shouted, "Please stop the young master. You understand, right? Just seeing a goblin the young master will faint immediately." She was right. Until yesterday I was still such a person. Li Yun squeezed his eyes shut, his mind sinking into the subconscious. He opened his eyes, his pupils now shining blue. "But now I know." A notification panel popped up. "System warning, the curse has activated." System warning, fear of monsters is increasing. Fear engulfed Li Yun, but he was unharmed. The fear of monsters, it turned out this was also part of the curse. Alejandro couldn't bear the sight and took a long breath. He spoke to stop them, today is enough. But he cut him off, not yet. He took a step forward. The goblin charged excitedly, screaming. Fear erupted. Li Yun's face visibly went pale. He couldn't help but recoil a short distance. Li Yun took a deep breath, trying to calm himself. Be calm, I'm no longer the person of the past, the opponent is just a goblin. I can do this. This curse is nothing compared to the danger I felt from him. The goblin's face was ferocious, its eyes flashing. The arrogant face of the Adian god appeared. Pressure radiated from him, but Li Yun did not step back. He leapt forward and swung his sword, his gaze flashing blue. He struck hard at the goblin's head, forcing it to kneel. Everyone was astonished at the scene. The system panel appeared. By overcoming the curse you have conquered the fear. The curse level decreased. The sword had split in two. The goblin painfully raised its hand in surrender. Li Yun paid attention to the system panel. From now on you will no longer feel fear of monsters. He said, please give me a real sword. Alejandro drew his sword, making Colin nearly faint. Young master, today at last you have. He turned back and smiled confidently at him. His face flushed, becoming a true man. This family is gradually declining. The goblin trembled at the sight of the sword, its whole body shaking. Li Yun gripped the sword tightly, his eyes blazing blue as he slashed down. A spray of fresh blood spurted up, but his face remained resolute. Alejandro thought inwardly, a glimmer of hope has appeared, then he turned to Colin, look closely. Li Yun swung his sword, goblin blood splattering. That image is the image of a true heir. Sunlight shone through the window of Li Yun's room. He was splashing water on his face to wash off the goblin's blood. His reflection appeared in the mirror, a satisfied smile forming. The image of his past life appeared in the mirror, the status panel still active, the support system effective. I have proven that. I can overcome the curse and grow. At this moment Li Yun waved his hand to summon the status panel. A notification appeared, your experience has increased. He was not satisfied with the current result. There was progress but still too little. If he wanted to level up by hunting goblins he would have to kill thousands upon thousands more. He must hurry, the cries that will echo through this family are drawing near. Li Yun gritted his teeth, at least it confirmed he could overcome the curse. He looked at the system panel with determination, so no matter what he must not miss this opportunity. The current situation of the family, father and brothers have been missing for 2 years. Though dire the family still holds its position, the enemy's plot has not yet begun. Suddenly he clenched his fist, now Li Yun has confirmed the first way to level up. Then it's time to check the second method. At that moment a red-haired girl wearing a mask appeared. The blue sky with white clouds, sunlight streaming through the window. In the reception room, Li Yun and the girl sat opposite each other. Sena spoke, I heard about the goblin hunt. She was doubtful, but is the real reason you summoned me to practice magic? Li Yun was thinking, the family's magic leader is like a captain. She is one of the few seventh circle mages on the continent, a mysterious woman. Apart from the clan chief no one knows her true background and power. Her tone was mocking, are you really arrogant just because you defeated a goblin? Sena sneered, magic training is entirely different from swordsmanship. You had no talent from the start which is why we didn't train you. Have you forgotten? Li Yun calmly, of course I know the curse stripped all my talents so except for swordsmanship and studies. I couldn't even sense mana. He smirked, but that was yesterday. What if I said now I can sense mana? Sena was astonished at Li Yun's words. The teacup placed on the table still steamed there. Sena suddenly unleashed a technique making her seem even more mysterious. Sena spoke, now you can open your eyes. I just drew a picture that can only be seen with mana in front of you. If what you say is true then try to guess what I drew. Li Yun replied, a beautiful red dragon isn't it? Sena froze. He asked, did I guess wrong? She replied awkwardly, no. You have truly changed from yesterday, but how could you not understand mana on my level and yet see a different image instead of a dragon? The clan's curse, how did you finally break it? I only taught you how to sense mana. Suddenly Li Yun interrupted Sena. I can sense mana but cannot use the clan's inherited mana body training method, so I need your help. Sena immediately turned with an unusually serious face. He pondered, mana cannot be used without accumulation, mana body training is the necessary path to level up. She sighed and asked, have you tried? But do you understand what that means? Drawing out mana for the mana body method means tearing the body apart to guide the energy. I will hold your life in my hands. Li Yun fell silent and smirked faintly. He spoke softly, are you planning to kill me? Sena reacted at once, young master, Li Yun laughed and said, anyway my current body cannot resist Sena. He thought briefly, but the only person I can rely on is you, even when attacked in the previous life. The image of Sena in Li Yun's mind always left an indelible impression. He suddenly thought when mana is exhausted the body gradually breaks apart. She was still the one who protected me until the last moment. Li Yun always remembered those good images. Suddenly he spoke, Sena. He reached his hand toward her tenderly, I trust you more than anyone. At that moment the room grew quieter. Li Yun knelt on the floor, with no cloth covering his body. The atmosphere was heavier than ever with a resonant voice, then begin. The Landi method of body training is only inherited by direct family line. I only know the theory but he could apply it immediately to guide mana. The Landi method, in Adian I once used this to train and increase stats and level. Li Yun carelessly glanced over and Sena immediately reminded him, focus, do you understand? Yes. She warned beforehand, the pain may be intense, do not make a sound, do not struggle. If you cannot bear it, strongly think that you want to stop. Li Yun heard the mention of pain and thought, pain. The worst images of Li Yun's life then surfaced clearly in his mind. Sun's indifference, his cold smile, the murderous look also appeared, making Li Yun feel more hatred than fear at that moment. He turned and shouted, I told you I trust you. Sena immediately regained focus for the training, all right. She quickly gathered her energy causing everything around to be wrapped in blazing flames. Li Yun's body became fiercer with veins of light blazing through him. The Archon curse was activating. Mana in the body was flowing. Sena concentrated fully. The Archon curse is as the master described, but this is what I predicted. I will transmit a little more mana. At this moment the Archon curse was activating countless times. This notification is for me alone. But the Archon curse was draining mana, while Sena's mana was overcoming it. The result was clear as day. Li Yun's mind was full of thoughts. Even a 7th tier Archmage's mana could not overcome this supreme curse. But if one applied the Adian method it worked. Let the curse shatter the activating mana. At the moment mana burst forth, simply control the scope within the body. Deceive the curse and retain the mana inside. Sena noticed something amiss and called out, young master, she thought, the mana pouring out cannot escape his body. It seemed the training process had taken a different direction. Resisting the Archon curse. Notifications kept appearing repeatedly, the Archon curse is activating, keep resisting the Archon curse. Li Yun was beginning to feel it was too hot. The path of mana moving inside him felt like it was being burned. He gritted his teeth and endured, but do you think I will give up? Images of brutal pain flashed through his mind. Li Yun suddenly realized, I've endured this pain thousands of times. I was a master player of Adian after all. Li Yun was certain he understood mana more than anyone. That understanding lay not in the body but in the soul. The pain still clung like a curse in his body. Li Yun remained lost in thought. Archon though never met. But it's the curse of a demon lord, not a god of Adian. The power in Li Yun's body had reached some kind of limit. Sena remained focused on her main objective, but this power was so great that Li Yun gradually became exhausted. He collapsed to the floor as Sena called out in alarm, young master. Li Yun's mind throbbed with pain, it hurt as if he would die, his consciousness fading, but it was fine. The bloodstains from that day flooded his mind again. The tormenting pain from those years lingered. The terrible images of that day could not be erased from Li Yun's memory. He suddenly recalled, compared to that pain the words still echoed, I never expected the experiment subject from the Sermin family to end up like this. Tomorrow we could cut off an arm to test regeneration, pity we should just discard him, deal with it quickly and return to Phaton. The long sword lunged toward him like a gust of wind. Suddenly a stranger appeared and caught the sword. That muscular figure stood there amid Li Yun's bewilderment. He glanced over as the soldier's shouts rang out, intruder. Stop him. That night was a full moon night with a chilly wind. The scene blurred with passing thoughts, how could it be outside? Li Yun suddenly woke, his eyes wide and observing, a gentle voice sounded, you're awake. Alejandro stood there with blood on him. He spoke softly, sorry I'm late. Li Yun, eyes full of hope, said, Alejandro, did you come to save me? Alejandro was badly wounded but still managed to reply, young master. His warm voice kept echoing, sorry, which moved Li Yun deeply. Tears streamed down his face. He abruptly woke after experiencing a haunting dream. The dream left Li Yun unable to hold back his emotions, tears soaking his face. The mana body training succeeded, didn't it? I should be rejoicing, but remembering that dream put me in a bad mood. It's okay, that won't happen again. Now I have a method, but I must not let others find out. Especially be highly vigilant of the Phaton family. I'm not strong enough to confront them yet. So my next action is decided. Li Yun's determined thought surfaced, accelerate the fall of the Sermin family. Today the sky was exceptionally clear, white clouds drifting slowly above the Sermin manor. Li Yun sat up in his pajamas, scratched his head with an embarrassed smile. The manabody training method failed, didn't it? Sena looked surprised at that and turned to look at him. Alejandro was equally surprised and blurted out a single word, huh. The three of them fell silent staring at each other, making the atmosphere even more awkward. Li Yun pressed his lips together, squinted, thinking to himself, although I feel a bit guilty toward the two who visited as soon as I recovered, I can't tell them the truth. It's not that I have a secret I can't share, it's that telling them might not help and they might not believe me. That's another matter. He suddenly smiled faintly, clenching his palm, and spoke. Everyone expected too much from me, so I tried, but right now I can't feel any mana at all. Li Yun a moment later turned his palm up in front of Sena. You can check if you want. She hurried forward. I don't understand why young master denies success, but if so allow me to check. Sena quickly summoned her blazing spirit power to probe the mana. She gripped Li Yun's small hand so the energy would flow into him. Soon Sena's whole body emitted an immense amount of mana. She widened her eyes, bit her lip and asked, what is this? And Li Yun, sitting before the few golden specks, just smiled faintly. After a moment Sena pulled her hand away, stammering, the mana has truly disappeared. Yesterday there was clearly still mana. She collapsed on the spot, trudged out apologizing. Young master, you watched her retreat and called out confused Sena. Alejandro instantly became awkward, especially when he saw Sena slam the door. He immediately turned around, raised his fist to encourage. Anyway, you did succeed in hunting monsters, just focus on swordsmanship then. Li Yun trembled, raising his arm and cut him off with a crooked smile. Actually I can't do it a second time. After that even eating became difficult. You've heard Colin tell you, right? Alejandro froze where he stood, unable to speak. His face darkened in an instant. Time passed like that. One fine day yellow leaves fell wildly before the manor gate. 2 months later winter arrived, covering the place in snow. Colin then slowly stepped out of the huge door. She was listless, tears in her eyes, thinking silently, the young master still hasn't left his room today. The Sermin household ran short of a head. The matron was busy maintaining the family, but gradually even she reached her limit. Another steward, seeing Colin, asked, isn't the young master still refusing to leave his room today? She replied, worried, yes. He sighed in despair. It's been 3 months since people saw him beat a monster in the arena. Now he won't even obey the head trainer. The maid beside chimed in, people say sudden change is a sign of death. Anyway, it was just a one-night dream. Colin, though terrified, still retorted loudly, that's not true. The young master did try to meet everyone's expectations. But another voice made her fall silent. The Sermin family is declining. Not only people inside the family call the young master that. Across the kingdom of Dayron people mocked the Sermin family, calling the young master the fool of a dying house. Colin widened her eyes, reproaching the young master is only 12. Isn't that too cruel? They added salt to her wounds. Expectations greater, pain deeper, especially for a noble house in decline. The maid beside sighed. The servants had begun to leave. He added, I'll quit after this month too. Colin, what will you do? That question made her even more distressed. Young master. Li Yun slowly put the knife down on the table. He thought to himself, the decline in food quality means the family's finances are in serious trouble. Li Yun's eyes brightened and he smiled slyly, just as planned. If it were my past naive self I would pour every remaining coin into restoring the family. But now with experience from Adian I'm different. I will wait in silence, lulling the enemy into complacency. The chance to gut them is not far off. The collapse began with the mysterious disappearance of the clan chief, the eldest brother, and the mages who went searching never returned. The other brothers were the same. Now the Sermin family no longer has the manpower or resources to mount searches. The arena that was once lively in the mansion. Now only a few poor knights and wilting servants remained. The retainers of other nobles who once befriended the heir, seeing this chaos, turned their backs and left. Thanks to that I can comfortably lock myself in my room without arousing suspicion. But the decline is slower than I expected. People say wealth lasts 3 generations. Maybe I must act more decisively from tomorrow. Suddenly Colin hurriedly opened the door, calling out, young master. It's training time. The head trainer is waiting. Come on, let's go. Li Yun glared at her, tiredly grinding his teeth. He hastily pulled the blanket over himself. I'll lose today too. Colin's face darkened and without hesitation she yanked the blanket off him. Her hand edged close to Li Yun. His body was now in Colin's arms. Her attitude resolute, she struggled to carry Li Yun. I will never leave the Sermin family. Finishing her sentence, Colin quickly ran out, carrying Li Yun. Truly. Outside the castle the weather was wonderfully cool. Alejandro angrily said, young master, how many times have I told you don't hold a sword like that? Even if you failed once you've sensed mana it's easier to sense it again. The swordsmanship you're learning is a style that can condense mana with a single slash. Li Yun's face twisted unpleasantly. It seems they haven't given up either. I want to repay that loyalty and zeal, but I must not reveal that I've been secretly training at night, even if it means using the body domination skill. Body domination, a skill that simulates bodily states useful for assassinations in Adian. For now I can only activate it clumsily. The system notified experience increased. Stamina +1. The system continued strength +1. Li Yun's face darkened, thinking just the thought of it. He hurried off, calling out, "I'll use the restroom a bit." Alejandro surprised young master. A faint vital aura was appearing throughout the room. Li Yun stood before the glass curtain. It seemed the skill was still unstable. Strong movement would dissipate the domination. His face showed some worry. He opened the status panel. The system announced Li Yun Sermin level 3 agility 11 mana 10 strength 17 stamina 14 archon curse B. He smiled slyly. Good, everything is progressing smoothly. 3 months of secret training have borne fruit. When all stats reach 20 I'll start leveling first. As in Adian I'll choose the spirit class this time. I'll also upgrade summoner and assassin. Suddenly Li Yun froze. Alejandro and I have guests. He was surprised. The steward of the Sermin family, Trino Hilda. He spoke. Young master, sorry to interrupt training. Here is something delivered. Li Yun thought, the situation is different from before the rollback. But they must have come to deliver this letter at the right time. Alejandro solemnly, is it time already? Li Yun opened the letter to read. The content of the letter was an invitation to the birthday banquet of the second prince of the kingdom of Dayron, Kyle Dayron, year 1892 of the Dree calendar. On that very day, the final piece of the plan will be revealed. Amid the green fields, Li Yun yawned deeply and said, "Am I just waking up now?" Trino said, "You slept soundly since departure. Last night Colin had to dress you until late." You replied, "I know." Because neither Alejandro nor Sena could go with him. He continued, "Unexpectedly a large pack of monsters appeared at this time." He briefly thought it really is an ill-timed moment. The Sermin family's main duty is to stop monsters from the dark basin spilling into the continent of Dree. Alejandro was assigned to defend the border. And Sena had to rush out due to a sudden summons from her mother. A summons from the one acting as clan head in our family couldn't be refused. As a result, a 12-year-old kid represented the family traveling to the capital. Trino reassured, "But don't worry. No one in the kingdom of Dayron would dare touch a legitimate member of Sermin." Li Yun still pondered. At least while this family still represents Dayron. In the past it was enough to send one person to the congratulatory ceremony, but now the family has declined. The clan head must attend the prince's birthday in person. Li Yun sat cross-legged and said, "Never mind, it's my plan." He suddenly announced, "It's time." King Durban of Dayron, the space and sunlight shone picturesque. Flocks of birds still circled the vast sky. In front of the palace many servants were already waiting. Li Yun stepped out from inside with a very solemn bearing. Kyle warmly greeted, "Welcome the Dragon of Dree, greetings to you." A very formal welcome from Kyle Dayron, the second prince. Trino bowed and expressed thanks for the invitation. "It's an honor, Prince Kyle. The Sermin family appreciates the kingdom's hospitality." Hearing that, Li Yun looked surprised, briefly thinking, "Hospitality? He stood there observing everything from the palace gate to the royal palace. The eyes of the people following the carriage couldn't hide their worry. The sympathetic looks at a Sermin in decline. Rumors about me spread quite smoothly. People there were gossiping. That's Li Yun Sermin, the irredeemable spoiled son in the rumors. They say Sermin is about to perish. Li Yun thought silently. The nobles were whispering too, mocking and contemptuous faces clearly visible. Everything was unfolding according to my plan. The sky remained clear with white clouds. He awkwardly at first spoke a greeting to you. Trino seemed a bit helpless at Li Yun's attitude. Those people there kept on chatting. He gritted his teeth and muttered, "Keep dancing to my tune." Just then a call rang out inside the palace. "Hey you all." Haisan spoke. "We arrived at the royal palace a week before the birthday to escort Li Yun, right?" Gang Gun replied. "He's been in the city for 5 days already. I heard he came early to mingle with envoys from other countries." Hai Dung said softly, eager to go. "Didn't see him when entering the city. Even if he tried to hide his face he couldn't even offer a greeting before the nobles. He's been silent in his room for 5 days, silent while the festivities are in full swing, good food and fine wine. He was extremely excited, and there are girls too." Gang Gun said calmly, "Seeing everyone upset I sent the youngest to persuade him." Suddenly Butte hurried in, "Captain." He recounted Li Yun's appearance and decision. "Today I will attend the banquet. Please guards prepare to assist." Butte stood there enthusiastically telling the story. Yes. Both Haisan and Gang Gun grew more excited upon hearing it. He emphasized further but asked to keep it secret until the last minute, even from Steward Trino. But the guards who must prepare need to report, Hai-san and Gang Gun said in turn, it's fine, as long as he appears that's enough, they'll shut up immediately. After much discussion the three hurried to prepare. Li Yun stood there pondering, these past days, I've been able to train in my room in peace. He thought to himself, attending the banquet isn't only for the guards. Li Yun with determined eyes thought silently, I have a greater purpose. From outside the palace a carriage was driving straight inward. Suns was in the carriage heading toward the palace. Li Yun had anticipated that, thinking to himself that he'd come today. The late afternoon sunset and the open sky were truly romantic. A voice announced, Sir Sun's Phaeton is entering. The palace doors slowly opened. Suns wearing a splendid outfit slowly stepped in. He glanced as if seeing something. Truno was also there, immediately turning cold and preparing to leave. But Suns saw him and stepped forward asking, isn't that Steward Truno Hilda? Truno replied gently, Sir Sun's Phaeton himself has come, Prince Kyle will be very surprised. He continued, I heard Li Yun arrived early, but, Suns smirked and asked, where is the famed Li Yun Sermin now? Truno upon hearing that looked extremely displeased. He remained calm and quietly asked, famed, you mean, Sun said in surprise, everyone knows. He growled, the rumor of Sermin's destruction, about Li Yun. Truno thought briefly, indeed Suns, the talented mage who reached level 5 at 15 and the Phaeton family's greatest hope. But he dares to insult Sermin right in their territory. Suns continued, of course that couldn't be true, I'm also hunting the rumor monger, we must punish those who slander noble families. He thought inwardly, drunk by 7, killed villagers at 12, the most rotten brat on the continent of Dree daring to. Suddenly a voice announced, Dragon of Dree, Sir Li Yun Sermin of the Sermin family enters. Truno was startled thinking, why have you suddenly been hiding in your room all day? Li Yun appeared with an unusually slick appearance. His hair neatly styled, and his outfit today was strangely handsome. He wore a calm face and a bright smile, causing those around to whisper, so different from the rumors, with such a dignified bearing who would say the Sermin blood is easily lost. Hearing those comments made Suns burn with envy. He thought to himself, that name Sermin has stolen all the glory again. Suns immediately stepped closer acting like he wanted trouble. Li Yun did not hesitate to speak, Sun's Phaeton right, I've heard Ras tell many stories about you. Truno could only stand there watching cautiously. Sun spoke, Ras. He asked, is he the missing fourth son of the Sermin family? Suns paused thinking for a moment then continued, I also know quite a bit about him. Li Yun cut in saying, Sir Sun's Phaeton is famous for his kindness. You two studied at the same academy. At the academy no one doesn't know Sun's name. Even though he studied only a few months he left a mark. That taunting remark made Suns angry, that dog. Li Yun continued, I heard you saved a friend from bullying. Li Yun enthusiastically recounted, and you helped that harassed girl. What else was there? In Sun's boiling anger he still went on, about the knee incident. Truno hearing that rushed out to stop him, that was when Ras' knee hurt and you brought medicine to him. Yes, the captain of the knights asked me to pass the message to the young master. The atmosphere then was terrifying like a ticking time bomb ready to explode at any moment. He grabbed Li Yun's arm and pulled him outside saying, the young master needs to come over for a moment sir. His eyes still radiated full of hatred when he looked at Suns. Suns could not hide his anger either, thinking, that bastard, you dare threaten me in front of so many people. Li Yun smiled smugly thinking, keep raging, you bastard, because your anger is part of my plan. An evening with an extremely heavy atmosphere enveloped the place. Suddenly a loud shout and a crashing sound echoed from inside the palace. Sun seemed very angry, muttering, Li Yun, that bastard. The images and stories of Li Yun kept appearing in his mind. I heard Ras tell many things about you. At the academy no one didn't know your reputation Suns, he briefly thought, so Ras knew everything. He knew about my expulsion and that I didn't quit on my own, even though I used the Phaeton influence to silence people, and also that he mentioned the knee incident. Li Yun's voice still echoed, I also heard that Sir Suns brought rare medicine when young Master Ras had knee pain. He thought, that humiliation back then must not be exposed. Suns stood there deep in thought smiling deviously. That image remained in his mind. Ras spoke, Sun's Phaeton, you have crossed the line. Suns growled, Ras, I didn't know that girl was your lover. Seeing a commoner's child enter the academy I only wanted to show some concern. Ras retorted, whether commoner or noble, first you are of the academy, yet you dared to use magic to harm a female student, kneel and apologize to her immediately, if not sincere. I will renounce my family title and kill you. Suns suddenly welled up with tears, clenching his teeth when he heard that. He immediately knelt before Ras. Recalling those images made Sun's hatred grow stronger. He thought to himself, must continue the plan, let Ras become a wronged spirit, at least silence this younger brother. Suns muttered, anyway he's about to face misfortune soon. Suddenly a knock sounded, Suns called, please come in. The door slowly opened. The silhouette of a man gently stepped into his room. Suns spoke, what a surprise, the person met tonight is unexpected. Steward Truno Hilda of the Sermin family, who always stands by Li Yun, entered Sun's room. A clear moonlit night and unimaginable events. The carriages were still on the move. Li Yun pondered, the banquet achieved every goal, escaping the image of a ruined man in the rumor. Now I am seen as the young master clever but lacking knight or mage talent. Sun's Phaeton had also taken the bait perfectly. Truno appeared and said, only now do I dare to speak, your performances at the feast were astonishing, it gives me the feeling that the flame of hope for the Sermin family is not completely extinguished. You looked puzzled and asked what he meant, not only failing to befriend other nobles, I even provoked the Phaeton family. Hearing that Truno felt uneasy and replied, but, your actions before Sun's Phaeton were truly refreshing. Li Yun seemed a bit suspicious at that answer. He immediately raised his hand and cast a technique, which made Truno panic and call out, young master. He was suddenly puzzled, why would the young master do that? Suddenly activating the soundproof charm on the carriage, Li Yun said, the flame of hope not yet extinguished. If you truly thought so, you might not have chosen to betray the Sermin family. Truno was extremely worried upon hearing that Li Yun knew the whole truth. He still tried to stay calm and act innocent. What are you saying? Li Yun said gently, your crime is great and unforgivable. The atmosphere of exposure was more terrifying than ever. Li Yun continued, but because it was a sin against the Sermin I will forgive. Truno was immediately aghast realizing he was merely a pawn in this game. He could only falter, stammering, how much do you know? He said softly, I also know it was unavoidable, so I will give you a chance, listen carefully to me and decide for yourself. Truno was dazed and worried, listening intently. The space suddenly softened, the carriages kept going. Li Yun sat there continuing to speak about the plan underway. He said the plan was proceeding very smoothly. Truno was very surprised, how could you have thought of this? How could you devise the entire plan like this? Who exactly is the young master? Li Yun stared with eyes full of hatred and a cold face. He suddenly covered his face and only sobbed a few times. Truno seemed deeply moved upon hearing Li Yun's words. He cried out, I really want to scream with joy right now. He smiled brightly and said, I guessed your choice already. Steward Truno, you have surpassed the capital. Truno suddenly thought, how can this child smile when he already knows what's about to happen? He kept his probing eyes and thoughts, no, this is not a smile. It is a ruthless, terrifying gaze full of killing intent. Suddenly the carriage wheels pulled forward a bit and then stopped. The soldier seeing this asked, why stop, move on. He turned to find the reason the horses could no longer move. When suddenly a grotesque effigy appeared making him exclaim, huh. The soldier could only stand frozen in surprise. All the guards immediately signaled, ambush. Protect the convoy carefully, the arrowheads contain magic. The captain immediately ordered, mages deploy shields at once. Dare to attack the Sermin family, then do you dare come out here and kneel? The soldier glanced over and suddenly noticed something unusual. The guard immediately reported, Captain, don't go near the carriage, no signal, even comrades will be cut down. The shield layer remained but voices kept echoing, it's over. The young master has disappeared, there is no one left on the carriage. The captain was extremely worried, not knowing what had happened, he only blurted out, what? The silent night in the forest. Truno rode his horse at full speed forward. He stopped, panting heavily. Behind him Li Yun was tied up and being transported, blood scattered along the road. He hovered in the air using magic to trigger the alert system, the dark magic is activating, the abnormal sensations are activating, the physical decline is activating. Li Yun closed his eyes, lips tight, thinking, how long has it been since I used it, the abnormal status spells are imposed beyond necessity. Then he imagined the guards panicking, surely the Sermin family guards are in chaos now. Truno rode even faster, in the previous life after this kidnapping the family threw all their strength into searching for me, the last direct heir except the little sister. Li Yun's brows slightly furrowed, then they quickly collapsed and were ultimately wiped out, but if it's me now, I can exploit today's event to hasten the timing as I wish and turn it into a stepping stone for my goals. Truno's horrified face appeared, he said, disguise, pretend to fall into ruin. Sitting opposite, Li Yun rubbed his chin and replied, the Sermin family's situation has become serious, what if I now show resolve to restore the family? A series of banners from other families would appear, the noble houses would certainly feel threatened and try to suppress me, if they form an alliance to attack, Sermin now would not be able to withstand it. You imagined yourself awkward under many scheming gazes, so I deliberately let the rumor spread, showing that the last heir of the Sermin family is no longer a threat to them, to make them more complacent. The image of sons arrogantly trampling on Li Yun appeared. However, no matter how the other noble houses act, Faton always wants to crush the very seed of Sermin, even if the rumor buys me some time, clearly they will never leave me alone. Saying this, his eyes ran bloodshot, his fist clenched in determination, then I will use that to my advantage. A series of terrifying images filled Truno's head, Li Yun's voice rang out without stop, Sons fell into the trap when he was provoked by me, if he has any plot then now, while I am returning from the capital, is his chance to strike. Of course if there are additional rebels all the better. Truno's face grew uglier. Li Yun let out a slight smile. Then he reached toward Truno. Come on, choose, Truno. Will the coming incident be the climax of Sermon's destruction? Back in reality, Li Yun lay motionless on the horse's back. Notifications kept appearing. Magic resistance to abnormal statuses, earth green physique resistance to abnormal statuses. His cold eyes slowly opened. All right, everything that happens is within my calculation. Suddenly a voice rang out that surprised him. Sorry. Truno, riding a horse, his body trembling, continued, sorry my lord young master. Li Yun paid no heed, he said, act according to the plan, Truno. That is the only way you can atone. Truno could only remain silent and weep. In his mind, Li Yun's whole body was wrapped by a stream of power, magic resistance to abnormal statuses increased by 1 point, all stats reached 20, a sensation of awakening. Feeling the abundant mana, Li Yun opened his eyes wide. Very good, the first growth condition is complete. In a village under the silent moonlit night, seeing Truno carrying Li Yun over, Sons, who was waiting, spoke, you've worked hard. He led his guards forward arrogantly, oh, I didn't expect you to show up in person, since this is a special transaction, the deal involving Steward Truno Hilda of Sermin. He looked straight at Truno who radiated murderous intent, betraying his master. Hearing this, Truno clenched his teeth and replied, you flatter me, Lord Sons. In the night, Sun said mockingly, it sounds like a dog barking at its master, if you've betrayed then be quiet and accept punishment. Sons held a scroll in his hand, information from the reliable source of the Asin family, meaning it had been verified. He handed the scroll directly to Truno. Are you sure about this information? Asin is also a notable house on the Dree continent, famed as a top assassination family. The scroll emitted faint streams of mana, but selling information is their main trade and they never sell false intel. Sons pointed at the scroll in Truno's hand, which contained information about the relics of the missing direct heirs of the Sermin family. Li Yun, placed near a tree, eavesdropped and heard, this is why Truno betrayed the Sermin family. He betrayed me, the incompetent heir, to find the missing siblings who could lead the Sermin family. Knowing the Asin family held the information, Truno could not go on living. The Faton family used overwhelming economic power to pay the highest price to monopolize that information. After the deal was done, Sons rubbed his chin and turned his back. You may go, your task is finished, traitor. Watching his retreating back, Truno said, please keep your promise. He paused and tilted his head, of course. Then Sons smiled slyly, your precious little master will be returned safely to Sermin. Finally Truno rode away on his horse. Along with the guards, Sons walked over to where Li Yun was and bent to look at him. A guard asked, should we deal with him? He answered, no need, even if he returns he'll be a soulless corpse. Sons grinned more savagely, by now Sermin must have realized he was the culprit, and only when he returns to the Sermin family will the grand plan proceed smoothly. Everything is ready. Another guard asked, will you do it yourself? Sons, excited, grabbed Li Yun's hair. Of course, I've had to look at that traitor's face and wait here just for this. In the gloomy night, with thick mist and wind, a blinding flash of light flickered. Li Yun's eyes gradually opened, seeing Sun's silhouette. Seeing Li Yun awaken, he pressed his face close to him and said, hello kid, do you understand the situation now? But Li Yun glanced coldly away. This attitude of his made Sons disdainful, could not help but laugh, inheritor of the Sermin lineage reduced to this state. Li Yun looked straight and asked, Sons Faton, what are you doing? He casually toyed with the weapon in his hand, looks like I somehow abducted your proud precious seed of the Sermin family. Li Yun's face darkened as he replied, so do you know what consequences will follow? Sons was slightly annoyed, are you threatening me now? He smiled more devilishly, threatening me like at that banquet before? Li Yun did not answer, smiling mysteriously. He walked over and patted his head. Seems you overheard something from your brother Ras, poor thing. Then fresh blood spurted out, he continued. Suddenly Sun stomped hard on Li Yun's head. Your father and brothers are all dead, don't be foolish enough to seek revenge on the Phaeton family. He kept stomping on his face without stopping. At that moment Li Yun's eyes flashed. Sons kept cursing. You don't understand why you're here, do you? He pointed at his face and mocked. You should have been protected in a carriage surrounded by knights. Truno sold you out. He traded you for information and the whereabouts of your brothers. He shouted, no one will come to save you. Sons clenched his fist and added, you ask what consequences will happen, probably war between the Phaeton and Sermin families. My kidnapping of you will be the beginning, understand? Enduring the pain, Li Yun coldly laughed. Nonsense, the idiot is dead, mouthy fool. His body gradually emitted many more mysterious streams of power. Witnessing this, Sons opened his eyes in astonishment. Li Yun now returned in a different form, his body restored whole, radiating strong power, activating a magic array. Immediately many magic circles appeared around his body. Facing the dazzling light, Sons had to raise his hand to shield his face. Midway he was surrounded by Li Yun's magic circles. Li Yun's eyes were full of hope, thinking he had long awaited this day of return. Sons opened his eyes wider in shock, his face beaded with sweat. His legs seemed to lose balance. Under the moonlit night at the abandoned building, a scream rang out. Inside, from that magic circle still emanated many strange powers. Sons scratched his head in anger. What is this? Nothing happened at all. Li Yun's face was dark as he plotted something. Sons walked over and touched his head. You dare pull such a ridiculous stunt just to buy a few seconds. Li Yun smiled. Hey idiot, I told you already didn't I? Hearing that, Sons froze. His eyes widened in a terrifying glare. You talk too much. Quickly a magic circle appeared around Sun's neck. He struggled to breathe. Veins slowly bulged along his neck. Blood spurted out. Unable to endure it, Sons clutched his neck in panic thinking of his throat. His voice could no longer come out. Li Yun seemed to turn into a demon and spoke. This is a silence magic array. Now your high-level spells are sealed. A mage cannot chant. What do you think about that? Realizing this, Sons was even more shocked. But he still tried to raise his hand to cast a spell. He thought to force an attack. I'll use an enchanted fireball. Li Yun scoffed as Sons prepared to strike. Enchanted magic can only reach tier 3, moreover you can't even use offensive spells now. This trap was ordered by the Phaeton family. He thought to launch the blow at Li Yun. Facing the strike, Li Yun was unafraid. I guess you don't want to die. Sure enough you're only using a tier 2 spell, far below my level. That is your mistake. The attack quickly stabbed into Li Yun's leg. Seeing that, Sons felt somewhat relieved. Just a leg is enough. But another scene made Sons startled. Li Yun's leg was being healed. His eyes widened, shining with light. He had resisted the fireball spell. Unable to accept the truth, Sons threw his hand back to cast another fireball. Seeing this, Li Yun guessed to himself, a tier 3 spell this time. What a pity, but you have already wasted your last chance. He smirked and said, did you think I would let myself be hit? Facing his fireball attack, Li Yun formed an ice circle to strike. The fireball was crushed by a stream of water from outside. Feeling something odd about the mana he had produced, Sons glanced in shock. Realizing everything, Sons gnashed his teeth with nothing more to say. From Li Yun's eyes 3 barrier circles formed to absorb and reflect mana. After that Sons' hand burned in excruciating pain. Seeing it, Li Yun spoke, any spell exceeding the preset threshold will be crushed instantly. Trying any harder is useless you fool. Sons seemed dazed, but regaining his composure, he swung his arm to face him. Sons' eyes narrowed slightly. Before him the chains were now cracking under Li Yun's power. Staring at the final fracture in the shackles, Li Yun said, surprised, snapping iron like this is nothing to me now, and by the way, there are more than 2 magic arrays. While Sons tried to steady himself, another magic array appeared by his left hand. It unleashed a barrage of lightning bolts straight into Sons. His screams rang out. Li Yun gave a faint satisfied smile. Seeing Sons sprawled on the ground in miserable defeat, he raised his hand to deliver another strike. In the end he passed out, hands in his pockets. Li Yun strolled by and sneered, wake up. In his deep eyes Sons saw Li Yun's silhouette, terrifying. He continued, this time our roles will be reversed. The room was filled with the incense of magic. Sons opened his eyes and saw him like that. Li Yun sat nearby playing with the knife in his hand. Awake yet? I thought you had fallen asleep. I was going to wake you. you have a rather good short sword. Then Sons realized he was tied and struggled. He kept jerking his hands hard trying to break free. Couldn't escape, Sons shouted, you. Sensing he could speak, he thought to himself, my voice is back to normal, the thing binding me is just ordinary iron chains, not some cursed manacle, so then. He shouted the severing spell, as soon as his voice ended, a magical hole at his throat glowed. Watching him scream in despair, Li Yun said calmly, did you really think I'm stupid? In pain, Sons coughed and gritted his teeth thinking, I don't see any magic array, but how did he do that? Li Yun slowly stepped forward, you think I'd charge a mage without any preparation? Li Yun raised his sharp sword, I already inscribed magic arrays all over your body. Li Yun carved a few lines into Sons, seeing that he asked, what's that? Blood spurting made Sons panic further. On Sons' belly a strange sealing line appeared, he said, you probably already know, this is the forbidden technique of carving magic arrays onto the body with scars, and this is the effect activated by the blood magic array. You recalled being tortured similarly in your previous life. In that life you used a clarity spell so I wouldn't faint. Back then Sons held the knife licking each drop of fresh blood, then you used this short sword to carve into the body of a 12-year-old like me. In the present Sons was horrified, how did you know this spell? Moreover according to investigations you can't use mana, but hearing that, Li Yun turned his face away and sighed, answering himself inwardly, thanks to memories from my past life and experience in Adian. 3 months ago after learning the mana body training method, I focused on upgrading the stealth skill first. The other skills I obtained easily too, thanks to the flow threads, the secret of skills I discovered in Adian. Each skill has its own flow thread, mana is pumped into each player's unique flow thread to activate the skill. And only those who reach master player level like me can perceive the existence of flow threads. Now I still remember clearly every flow thread of the skills I have. So I don't need to learn or train to have a skill, I only need enough mana and the qualification. Then you recalled the stealth skill, I left the Sermin clan, memorized the location and layout of this place, and set traps ready to catch Sons Phaeton, thanks for falling into the traps so easily. At that time you were in tremendous pain, these 3 arrays amplified the pain you intended to use on me. Sons' cruel memories of the past gradually shattered, Li Yun said, now worry about how this will be used on your body. He raised the blood-stained knife and stared. Outside this place the sunset flared. Sons' battered body begged, please stop, I'm in so much pain, please stop. Seeing him in pain, Li Yun couldn't hide his joy and replied, fine, I'll stop here for today. He shed tears of gratitude and thanks. But as you prepared to leave, Sons shouted, no wait. Sons' expression turned full of hatred, it's not that I'm giving you a chance, but my family will arrive soon, you should run now while you can, I told you because you stopped torturing me. You seem to guess in an instant, they'll arrive in a week, he suddenly asked again, how did you know? Recalling the scene in the previous life with their indifferent faces, Li Yun said, they delayed arrival so you'd enjoy torturing me alone, you told your subordinates to return in a week didn't you? In the prison the curses echoed without end, you didn't faint, is that not so, they're coming soon. Li Yun despised him even more, with your nature would you tell me if members of the Phaeton clan arrived? Never, you would be silent as a clam and only beg to buy time, that way the Phaeton clan can kill me. He saw his scheme exposed and fell silent. A number of terrifying guards appeared, Li Yun revealed, your direct subordinates are the fingers of Phaeton. Now Sons could only cry out in pain, what do you plan to do? Li Yun swung his hand and slapped him hard. The mana sealed on Sons proved effective, so he screamed in despair. Li Yun left peacefully, then keep screaming loudly, a promise is a promise, today I will not touch you anymore. Sons screamed hoarsely, tears and snot streaming everywhere. Standing nearby Li Yun was surrounded by his magic circles, he tilted his head and sneered, now it's time to receive guests. Saying that he recalled the image of those guards, I will have to face Phaeton's elite troops who will arrive in a week. 1 week later at this place. Ensure the soldiers are led here, you lead and ask, this place, they obediently answered, yes. They imagined Sons torturing Li Yun for a week since the young master kidnapped the Sermin child here, but with no contact I reported to Lord A. You leading asked puzzled, in a week no one approached. Then they slowly walked around to observe, one answered, yes, all entrances were carefully guarded. After a while the leader exuded murderous intent and clicked his tongue, if he was too absorbed in torture to report it would be troublesome. The man raised his hand to form a weapon, the master's order is to bring the Sermin child back alive. He gripped the weapon firmly deciding, I'll go in, the one behind seemed about to stop him, but, he glanced back, Phaeton's finger always places the master's orders first, even the young master as blood of the Phaton clan is no exception. Quickly the door was smashed by the leader's strength. Before entering he instructed his subordinate, "I go alone," the subordinate behind nervously replied, "Yes." Then he shot a cold glance and said, "You stay put and wait outside." Saying that he entered extremely calmly. His steps moved without haste. As he walked he observed around, "Strange, I have a feeling of unease but detect no mana." Suddenly countless of Li Yun's mana circles appeared before him. Then a series of attacks targeted him. Facing these he formed a temporary shield and wondered, what? Then he drew his weapon to generate a strong mana source. Oh no, something definitely happened to Sun's Phaton. The staff alarm detected a trap. With that power he saw all the traps. One trap was activated by a magic array. He destroyed a trap and guessed, this person knows the layout well and is highly skilled. Then he walked slowly over the traps unharmed. They had planted traps at every fork. Was it the Sermin household or some third party? Then he raised his hand to create a defensive layer and shouted, "Double defense layer," then thought to himself, "Whoever it is I won't give him a chance." His face studied intently, "Whoever you are." A cold light flashed in his eyes, "I'll make you regret daring to challenge Phaton's finger." The prison was dark and deserted. Inside a cell blood flowed across the floor like water. Suns was drenched in blood, bowing his head as if dying. Outside Phaton's finger detected it and used a powerful spell to destroy the lock. When it was done he looked in and called out, "Young master." Then Phaton's finger quickly destroyed the chains and freed Suns. Afterwards the man stepped forward to support him. What happened? Suns was speechless. Then his face looked very tired and his eyes slowly closed. Feeling suspicious, Phaton's finger checked with his staff. This mana is indeed Sun's Phaton's. He wondered what on earth happened. Bound tightly from behind, Li Yun still played the victim. And Sun's trembling begged his men to quickly use a recovery potion. Hearing that the man argued back, "Priority is to get out of here first." Recalling the countless traps at the door, the man said, "The enemy hasn't revealed themselves yet. It's very dangerous. There are many traps on the way in as well." Then he turned to stare at Li Yun. He had restrained the young master and tied the child but didn't take him away. That means the purpose wasn't only rescue. Not believing it, the man assumed the child was certainly mad, but I cannot abandon the mission, so. While Phaton's finger questioned himself, Suns painfully sat up on one side and exposed, "It's him." Suns cried out in anguish and shouted, "The one who did this to me is Li Yun Sermin, that bastard." Hearing this Phaton's finger glanced silently. Then he channeled power through his staff toward Li Yun. "First I'll use 3 strikes to render that child unable to be moved by anyone but me. 7th tier magic, perfect binding, will seizure, disordering body and mind." But before he could react, Li Yun appeared behind him with abundant power. "You're being overly cautious." Reacting extremely swiftly, Phaton's finger pointed his wand and launched an attack, activating a fire orb. The strike was unleashed with tremendous force. But what it hit was a wall. He wondered, a magical illusion. Then suddenly the man coughed up blood in pain. "I was interrupted while chanting the 7th tier spell, so suffered a backlash." Then he looked over. While Li Yun moved he said, "Reverse flow mana is annoying, isn't it? Anyway you're an archmage so you'll recover quickly." Li Yun moved fast, creating countless illusions. "If you noticed something odd when entering the room you should have dealt with me first." Provoked to anger, Phaton's finger raised his staff preparing to attack. "You despicable one. Daring to use illusions to deceive a master illusionist like me." Li Yun wasn't outdone and radiated power preparing to counterattack. Standing amidst the powerful magical whirl he shouted to dispel the illusions. Immediately countless bolts of lightning shot forth from his magic circle shredding everything. But Li Yun nimbly dodged every strike. He deftly glanced around. After a while Li Yun opened his eyes wide and smiled at something, while Phaton's finger's expression remained unchanged. Quickly Li Yun used his power to dash toward him very fast. Facing this the man cursed obscenely, then immediately kicked straight into Li Yun's jaw causing blood to spurt. Seeing Li Yun spat away, Phaton's finger said, "You think you can strike my weak point with skill like this?" He formed another fireball. "Even if I burn half your face the master will forgive it." Perhaps that illusion was your last card. If you had any other stratagems you would have used them before charging in. Hearing this Li Yun lay on the floor with a crooked smile. Suddenly he startled, "You think Phaton's finger is only this much?" Turns out there was a short sword at his feet. Realizing something, the man opened his eyes wide in shock. Before he could react further, a slash cut across his neck, blood gushing. Now Li Yun had entered Sun's body and stabbed with the knife, while the man only let out a few cries as he was like that. Phaton's finger had not yet realized anything and still glanced calling young master. Li Yun inside Sun's body smiled confidently, you are so arrogant I cannot help but speak. Then he smirked and revealed everything. Do you know the soul swap technique? Sun's soul is currently unconscious and trapped in my body, you cannot kill me because of the master's orders. Then he looked at the rune carved on Sun's body, this I anticipated, there is also a blood magic array carved on him. Li Yun's body remained motionless, it not only amplifies pain but has another art, it is the magic to transfer a soul into another body as a countermeasure. Then Faton's finger's staff was shattered by him, this is my true trump card. Finally a great explosion occurred inside the room. Only an iron mask was thrown out from inside. Li Yun slowly approached the burning body. His body emitted a strong blue light. Li Yun smiled smugly and said, caught you. He sat down and rifled through the man's clothes looking for something. Li Yun pulled a vial of blue liquid from the man's cloak. He poured the vial straight over the body. The system announced, pain resistance skill activated, pain resistance skill upgraded. Li Yun frowned and endured the pain, telling himself that though it hurts there is no choice, Sun's wounds inflicted by ache must be clearly visible. He suddenly laughed out loud, his face extremely joyful. Li Yun shouted, I did it, I have defeated one of Faton's fingers, a 7th tier archmage. Suddenly the system panel appeared, announcing that the quest was completed, level increase. He was amazed, a quest, level up I understand, but, the system panel displayed content, Li Yun Sermin level 15. Li Yun smiled with satisfaction, jumping from level 2 to level 15, this is the obvious result after defeating Ache, but, is it because of that quest just now? No. First I must do this right away. He created a blazing red magic circle on the floor. Yun grabbed one of the corpse's legs and dragged it away. He placed the corpse on the table and formed red magic rings around it. The success of this will determine the speed of the next phase of the plan. The meridian imprint is engraved deep into the soul, not the body. Even while in Sun's body, I can still use Li Yun's mana. Now I just need to pump mana into the prepared meridian imprint and it's done. The system announced level decrease by 5, additional conditions have been activated. An information panel appeared before Li Yun. The ghost content is the assassin's hidden class. To switch to this class you need 20 clarity and 15 mana before reaching level 5. You succeeded, but Li Yun frowned staring at the system panel. He thought silently if he still had levels he could try 2 more times. Blue rays of light spread throughout the room. Li Yun closed his eyes, concentrating all his mind to cast the spell. The system rang, class change successful, additional conditions activated, switch to the high-tier Soul Caller class, Death Hand. The system displayed that Death Hand is a high-tier class of Soul Caller, requires 20 mana and belongs to the Assassin branch. One of the 2 chances succeeded. Originally the plan stopped here. But after defeating Faton's finger, levels surged unexpectedly. If I use the remaining levels to change profession a 3rd time, I could attain the hidden Wraith profession. The Wraith was originally a class for assassins and soul callers that unlock senses. In Adian, this is the strongest class to make you supreme. The combined effect with soul caller and assassin goes without saying. If I can achieve high-tier Wraith classes like Phantom and Death Hand, the issue is after studying the Meridian imprint, the key condition for high-tier Wraith class is soul magnitude. Li Yun pondered, with current levels failure would have unforeseeable consequences. But if successful the plan would advance like a storm. There was no time left to hesitate. He gave a confident smile. The system suddenly announced, level decrease by 5. Li Yun opened his eyes wide, his face showing pain. The system reported the soul was damaged, rest is needed to recover the soul. Mystical purple energies enveloped him, he screamed in agony. Blood flowed endlessly from Li Yun's eyes and mouth, the pain was like flesh being torn. Could the 3rd high-tier class be beyond me? Suddenly he seemed to see something. He glanced in horror. Li Yun's past unfolded before his eyes like a film. He knelt on the table surrounded by men wearing bird masks. Sun smiled wickedly as he grabbed Li Yun's hair. Alejandro smiled faintly, his gaze reflecting satisfaction. Alejandro bravely shielded him from dozens of arrows. And the image of Sena covered in wounds. She had given Li Yun a bright smile. He gritted his teeth trying to endure the torment. Li Yun resolutely shouted, even if I must sacrifice my soul I will attain the high-tier Wraith class. A powerful burst of energy erupted from Li Yun. It radiated ceaselessly and illuminated the entire room. The system panel appeared. Soul large enough, hidden class unlocked. He looked at the system panel slowly, full of anticipation. A notification sounded, switch to high-tier Wraith class, illusion. The system panel displayed information about the illusion class. Li Yun was completely stunned, confused, thinking, illusion. Even in Adian I have never seen this class before. Because it is a high-tier Wraith class, there will certainly be many similarities. I have achieved all my objectives. Now it is time to carry out the original plan. The Wraith's passive skill is to enhance the summoning arts of the Soul Caller. Killing the 7th tier Archmage also served this plan. A precious ingredient that cannot be wasted. If it succeeds, my plan will be significantly shortened. The system sound rang, activating the Lich crafting skill. He thought, normally crafting a Lich requires a level 70 Soul Caller, but with a level 7 mage as material this might be feasible. Suddenly the dead body's vacant eyes flashed a blinding light. The system announced Lich crafting failed, activating special undead crafting skill. Li Yun was immediately astonished. A pitch-black mysterious mist suddenly appeared. It thickened before him, gradually forming a shape. A figure emerged carrying formidable power. The system sounded, special crafting succeeded. It curled its lips, offering a mysterious smile. The system then prompted to name it. Soon after the tower blazed, a strong purple light pouring through the windows. Then a violent explosion rang out. The henchmen outside immediately panicked. Suddenly what was that explosion? They looked in horror at the rubble. Where is Lord Sun's? Among smoke and embers, a pair of feet still leisurely slowly stepped out of the blast. Li Yun in Sun's form strode out proudly, the henchmen astonished. Lord. He looked back at them with cold and indifferent eyes. Li Yun spoke. It was Ake who did it. Are you henchmen confused? What? He barked. That idiot really, I mean one of Faton's fingers betrayed me. Do you not understand the situation? Luckily I used an artifact to bind him but it won't hold long. I will take Li Yun's Sermin away first. You hold Ake back so I have time to return to the clan, understood. Reinforcements will arrive immediately. If you do well in stopping him all will be richly rewarded. Li Yun finished and immediately rode off on horseback. His silhouette gradually moved deep into the night and disappeared from their sight. That was the last time we saw the Lord. The henchman respectfully knelt before a man, Sir Phyllis. This man was Phyllis, a 7th tier mage of the Faton clan. He spoke sternly, no trace of Ake found inside. Phyllis flew into rage, clenching the paper in his hand. He shouted in fury, is this report true? So the only ones who know what happened that night are you? The henchman hesitated, answered yes. At that moment the soldier behind swiftly swung a blade down at him. The emotionless soldier continued to hack regardless of the other's screams. Phyllis said, but Lord Sun's Faton's disappearance is also a major issue. If Faton's finger being tied to the abduction of Chief Sermin is exposed it will be very troublesome. Suddenly chaotic noises from outside flooded in. Stop. Outside the soldiers shouted a warning, if you dare take another step. A pair of feet stomped firmly forward, emanating a powerful force that pushed back the enemies. The man strode forward with dignity, doing nothing yet causing the surrounding soldiers to be wary, his breath full of valor. Alejandro stood proudly under the mystical blue moonlight, enhancing his imposing presence. Alejandro spoke slowly, if you take another step I'll kill every one of you scum. Phyllis warned, daring to invade another clan's territory without notice, don't you think this will be an excuse for war between the clans? Alejandro angrily shouted, didn't you start the war first? Bring Lord Li Yun out here. Phyllis said calmly, are you not suspecting but certain? Alejandro replied, a week after Lord Li Yun disappeared rumors spread across this border region. It's the suspicious structure and underground base we discovered. The Faton clan setting up a camp right before us isn't to hide what happened here is it? Phyllis said honestly, we truly do not know where Chief Sermin is, moreover our young master son's Faton is also missing. We ask for your cooperation in the search. Alejandro roared again in anger, shut up. Those words made Phyllis also flare with rage. Alejandro bluntly declared, we will not allow you to ruin the scene before the investigation is complete. He stared fiercely at Phyllis, his body radiating immense authority. Phyllis assumed a battle-ready stance, emanating no less power. Not far away, Truno silently observed everything, surprised the Faton forces appeared here, hoping the situation wouldn't escalate. Sena turned and cast a spell to warn, who allowed you to speak freely you traitor. He immediately went pale with fear and dared not utter another word. She continued, if not for the young master's words I would have reduced you to ashes long ago. Now shut your mouth and only speak about searching for the Lord. Truno obeyed, the Lord said he would leave traces. Sena looked around then asked, in a place like this? He answered, if it were easy to find the Faton clan would have discovered it already. Only Sermon's green cultivation ground can be located. In any case the Lord succeeded once, the resonance of the green cultivation ground must still remain, albeit very weak. She chanted and formed a greenish sphere. Through the sphere, Sena immediately saw what she was searching for, found it. She immediately summoned it close to her. Truno was horrified and couldn't believe his eyes. What is this? a body floating in midair, appeared before the two. Li Yun had escaped Sun's body, now he was bound tight and hung from a tree looking pathetic. The two noticed Li Yun was not there. Suspicions arose, only Sun's phaeton remained. Sun's had a strip of cloth tied across his neck with the words, "I am the kidnapper, please punish me." At the same time he appeared, a neatly placed letter lay beneath it. Sena quickly noticed the letter right there. He asked if there were any traces of the Lord. She signaled silence. "Wait, there's a letter here." Sena read each line intently. If it were Sena, she would certainly find this letter. "I once thought to take Sun's body to ruin the Phaeton clan from within, but if it's Chief Phaeton, an 8th-tier mage, he's very likely to detect my soul swap. If I return to the Sermin clan posing as Li Yun, it could spark a war between the two clans. The Sermin clan cannot endure a war right now, so there is only a third option. Now before I disappear, I must leave an explanation that will convince you." Sena. Truno asked curiously what exactly is written in it. She quietly burned the letter, softly saying, "Let's return to the Sermin clan steward." The letter smoldered in Sena's hand, slowly turning to ash. There will surely be much to do. Sunlight poured from above, illuminating the land below. Birds flew freely, their shadows cast upon the rooftops. A small figure appeared on the road. Someone called to the boy, "Hey Leon, the leader is looking for you, let's go." Toward Truno and Sena he looked at her bewildered. "Lady Sena," she said mysteriously, "I am certain." To the boy Leon turned back and smiled, "Yes sir." The youth's gaze gleamed with a mysterious green, already a young master. He smiled faintly, "The Dragon of Dree." Time passed. 3 months later in Painthan, capital of the Painstroy Kingdom. People were talking. "Have you heard Phaeton and Sermin clans clashed? Dayron and Painstroy had to intervene to settle this." "What caused it?" "I heard a traitor of the Phaeton clan kidnapped the last person with Sermin bloodline. In the end Sermin accepted compensation from Phaeton. The perpetrator has not been found. The kidnapped child is still missing. Why would the Sermin clan accept compensation? Their lord dubbed the Golden Dragon has long been gone. Once a noble family, now only ruins remain." Rumors like this grew day by day. At this moment at the Painthan branch of the Marthong Assassins Guild, a voice said the disappearance of the last bloodline heir makes compensation even more necessary. She crossed her legs in thought and sighed deeply. "Sapphire, 2nd-tier assassin," the Painthan branch chief complained, bored. "All the same old stories everyone knows." Uncle Dolce said, "What about the rumor that Sermon steward Truno was executed? He was found collaborating with people of Phaeton. Alejandro immediately beheaded him." Sapphire asked in shock. "A master swordsman from the Dree continent acted personally." Suddenly someone entered from outside. Li Yun walked in calmly from outside. Sapphire said, "He's here, Leon." He spoke softly. "Hello Uncle Dolce." Uncle Dolce curiously asked, "Did you come to see the branch chief?" The space fell silent, only rays of sunlight flickered through. Sapphire spoke finally, "You're here today." She held out an envelope asking, "Do you know what this is?" "Li Yun, the letter nominates you to become a full member of Marthong." Li Yun smiled faintly at that. He said, "There's still one more test anyway." Sapphire replied, "That's right. Your first time going to the field, right, but this test means nothing to you, right? The renowned assassin clan Asin, the 4th largest assassin group on the continent, in just 2 months at Marthong's Painthan branch you've overcome every trial to reach the final test." Li Yun's eyes turned icy cold upon hearing that. She continued, "Our branch has received an outstanding talent with the shortest trial time and the youngest member in 100 years. He modestly replied, "I'm still far behind the 2nd-tier branch chief." Sapphire hearing this teased, "Are you pretending to be humble? Anyway, compared to the first meeting your expression is better now." She sipped her tea as she spoke. Images of that night resurfaced in Sapphire's mind. She recounted that night's events. "It's already been 2 months. A boy appeared quietly among an obscure band of assassins, and unexpectedly brought a huge sum of money." That night Li Yun's eyes were full of killing intent along with her story to place an assassination request. That was Sapphire's first meeting with Li Yun and the puzzling circumstances. Li Yun spoke, "Because I heard the guild accepts requests as long as there's money. After confirming the amount you treated me like a client." Sapphire denied, "It wasn't money that changed my attitude. Because I had a hunch I might never meet such a strange client like you again." "Isn't it odd a ragged child brought money to place a request, and hired someone to kill himself? Isn't that intriguingly strange?" Li Yun ignored those words without replying. Hurriedly grabbing the letter he quickly stood up to leave. "I'll read the letter myself. When you're ready for the test, call me." Sapphire replied. And then Li Yun turned and walked out. The conversation between her and Li Yun had ended. Carl immediately asked, "Did you accept him because of a hunch?" Sapphire answered, don't joke, you know the procedure. That boy completed all assassination training in 1 month. Carl said for others those courses should have taken 5 to 10 years. She also praised, indeed a talent. Have you investigated thoroughly, Carl? He reported. Leon with no surname, blue hair, green eyes, was picked up from the road raised by an unnamed master. One day the master disappeared. Afterwards he joined this place to look for information about his master. The notable point, he proved himself by requesting an assassination on himself to join Manhwa. Thus he was tested for ability and passed training rapidly. Sapphire suspected that information came from Leon. Is that true? Carl once again affirmed everything was accurate. He recounted all of it. I went to the place he lived with his master. In a house on the mountain, Carl said, and there were signs someone had been nearby. Sapphire interrupted, raising many doubts. Although the information is correct, the most important thing is, could Leon be Lee Yoon Sermin? Carl also briefly considered the question she raised. Sapphire traced the chain of events of the missing young master of the Sermin clan. A mysterious boy of the same age appeared here at the same time. Could it be a coincidence? I feel uneasy. Carl judged the likelihood they are the same person extremely low. She asked why. He continued, Lee Yoon Sermin not only lacks mana but is weak in swordsmanship and physical strength. Everyone knows this. Result has been monitored since his birth. The sign of the Sermin clan's decline is Lee Yoon Sermin. How could he be the same person as a genius like Leon? If you want, I can continue investigating. She stopped him. We can't waste a talent like you on pointless tasks. Investigate that master further. If he truly raised Leon, he certainly isn't ordinary. In the next room, Lee Yoon had also overheard the conversation. He muttered, this woman really has keen senses. The summoner's skill is convenient. As long as a soul exists, Lee Yoon can gather information through their eyes and ears. Lee Yoon spoke. Status. The system displayed Lee Yoon Sermin, vocation activated, death hand level 13. He was surprised the level cost from changing vocation had already recovered. Investing mana into physical domination also yielded results, not only changing appearance, but also avoiding detection by mana sensors and even fooling the form sensing skill of a second-tier assassin. And on that day, Lee Yoon used a soul-swapping technique to enter Sun's body. He gained a pretty neat spirit skill and thought to name it. Lee Yoon smirked proudly and decided to name it Kornak. Kornak was born that day surrounded by a miasma of killing intent. He whispered, what is this? Strength 7, agility 5, mana 23, fireball skill and soul shield. In stats and skills it could be seen as a developing undead. He rejoiced and suddenly realized, is this the ability of a wraith? But it wasn't listed in the skill description. Lee Yoon reached toward it and muttered to inspect it more clearly. The parameters gradually appeared from Kornak. He widened his eyes, staring intently at those parameters. The system board displayed the Revenger's quest, describing the reward as question mark. Lee Yoon said this quest was thought not to exist on the Dree continent. Moreover, it's a hidden quest and players must find the conditions themselves to complete it. Clearly, after defeating Ache, the completion notice appeared. The lotus weaving skill between the death hand and the wraith, and the quest spawned Kornak from that. Lee Yoon briefly thought it's currently just a mana-eating monster sharing lacking EXP, but one day it will become useful. That night was a clear moon night. Lee Yoon happily said development is about looking to the future. The moon silent in the wind. Lee Yoon sat high on the wall and thought, his eyes pensive, thinking inwardly, not just focused on the present. Uncle Dolce approached from afar, asking, what are you thinking? Lee Yoon cheerfully replied, I'm thinking about passing the test, becoming a full member, and one day becoming the head of Marthong branch. Uncle laughed and said, at your rate of development you can dream of that. Uncle Dolce suddenly paused and looked off into the distance. He spoke. But today there will be 3 candidates and only one of you will pass the final test to become a grade 5 assassin and an official member of Marthong. Uncle Dolce called out the names of the test candidates, including Faya, Rib with eyes full of killing intent and a solemn bearing. He continued saying, Leon, if any one of the 3 kills the target he will become an official member. Lee Yoon with eyes full of determination. The announcement from him rang out, the test begins. Uncle Dolce with stern eyes closely observed the test proceedings. He announced the rules first. Listen to the target information. Our target this time is a lock, 47 years old, a merchant running a fairly good shop, always accompanied by 3 mercenaries as guards. 2 are bronze rank warriors and 1 is a silver rank mage. Faya spoke up, saying there's a rumor he recently took a young concubine. Every night he goes to her bedroom, so at that time the guards don't come near. Dolce praised, you only gave the target's name yet investigated this thoroughly. You know the guard situation and even found ways to avoid them. Well done. But the test is today. Who guarantees he will go to the concubine's room? Hearing that, he was taken aback and said He continued saying, or perhaps you, a rookie, can handle the guards too. Faya hesitated about that. Dolce said that's why Marthong gathered the intel, now it's the final turn. Dolce called Leon, do you have any information, say it. Lee Yoon sighed and replied, must I say? The three pairs of eyes all looked to him expecting information, but Lee Yoon refused. I'm not going to cooperate to complete the mission and become an official member together. This is a test where only one passes. I have no reason to share my information. Faya angrily said, we just shared our intel. Rib grumbled, that's right, after all we're teammates. Lee Yoon curtly replied, teammates? I've never been taught about comradeship in training. Faya and Rib both surprised exclaimed, what? Dolce wholeheartedly agreed with Lee Yoon and said, exactly. This is a test. Using your own abilities is fine, but importantly you must use what you've learned to succeed. He thought to himself, discard or exploit when needed. That's the assassin's instinct. His answer is truly that of a professional killer. Dolce said, anything else to discuss? Faya and Rib silently replied, no. He immediately signaled, then from now on you're free to assassinate the target. Dolce watched Lee Yoon intently, thinking, that kid makes me hopeful. He stood casually and said, assassinate that girl, huh? Sapphire spoke this time, the mission calls for 4 rank 4 thugs and 3 rank 3 thugs, time limit 3 days, location limited to Painthan, success awards an extra 100 gold. But if you fail, we must accept Leon by special allowance into training at Marthong's Painthan branch. Dolce, hearing the mission, said, that's crazy. The soldiers there also sneered, 3 days, how ridiculous, try to run, I'll find you in 10 minutes. A while after carrying out the mission, he and the soldiers returned exhausted and reported failure already. That kid's traps and tricks are no joke. She smiled and said, a deal is a deal. Leon, from today I will train you. Lee Yoon briefly thought becoming an official Marthong assassin won't be easy, especially since this target was chosen by the branch chief and is the toughest yet. Perhaps I'm standing at the starting point of history. A clear moon night with cold wind, everything was peaceful. Fire burst out from inside the building, shattering glass fragments. He thought for a moment to destroy both the alarm magic and the trap mechanisms. They avoided the guards and infiltrated successfully. Unexpectedly there were mercenaries as well. The guards, extremely strict, shouted, there's an intruder. It ran that way, don't let it escape, leaving Rib hesitating there observing. She thought to herself, idiot Faya, but thanks to that my job flows smoothly. If he hadn't detected us I'd have had to act early and he'd have been exposed. The target had faced countless assassination attempts, each time a lock would hide in the first wife's bedroom, with guards both inside and outside the room. A harsh voice rose, it's unbearable. Kelly shouted, did you have to take the concubine and now bring along a bunch of assassins too? Alok gently explained, no darling, it's not like that. The assassins aren't my fault, this room is equipped with maximum security. Rib, observing from above, thought, indeed the defenses are better than before, the number of mercenaries has increased. The regular guards had also been lured away by Faya and there were 5 ordinary soldiers around. She prepared to act, she could strike head-on. Alok panicked, shouting, what are you doing, that's dangerous, put that down at once. Rib heard and peered out to see what was happening. Kelly, holding a sharp knife, sobbed each word, brother, we've tried to endure. I remember you whispering you loved me back then. But I can't let you keep taking money from my family anymore. He immediately gave the reason that it was due to lack of capital for business. She was filled with hatred, saying, money from my family's house and you use it to buy gifts for the concubine. After saying that, Kelly struck, making Alok unable to resist. Rib witnessed everything in astonishment. She had killed Alok in an instant. The knife used to kill was stained with red blood. Kelly trembled and cried out, what have I done? Alok fell to the floor with a deep wound. Kelly stood motionless as voices outside asked, madam, is everything okay? Rib suddenly thought the target was killed by the first wife. So is this mission a success or a failure? She suddenly realized, wondering why Leon hadn't appeared. At that moment the space fell silent again. Rib returned to the rendezvous, bowing her head to report the mission failed. She choked up, unable to speak, stammering, Alok was killed by the first wife, not us. Lee Yoon turned to look at Dolce with a calm expression. Rib found it strange and glanced at Lee Yoon, observing. She thought to herself, how did Leon get here before me, or did he come to the mansion at the same time as us? Faya had also returned with her body bearing many injuries. Dolce said, Faya returned safely. Faya replied, because the guards started fighting among themselves so I could leave. At that time the guards chasing Faya fought back and forth, creating the opportunity for him to get away. He continued saying, the test is over, but the assassination was not a failure. Dolce announced shocking news that Leon had completed the mission. Everyone was extremely surprised. Huh? A voice asked, does that mean the mission succeeded? Alok was clearly killed by his first wife. Dolce explained it was thanks to Leon. Everyone confused. What? He cast a mysterious look and pointed at Lee Yoon, saying Leon had Lee Yoon used a trick to make the first wife kill Alok with her own hands. Faya heard this and widened his eyes in surprise. Rib was no exception and stood there mouth agape. Dolce continued. Leon made Alok's first wife kill her husband with her own hands. Can you explain how you did it? Lee Yoon thought to himself, do you expect me to answer with a displeased expression like why should I say? Lee Yoon sneered, glanced and said loudly, I will tell. Rib and Faya tensely fell silent and looked toward Lee Yoon. He said the solution lay in the relationship between Alok and his first wife. The sun set and dusk covered the whole mansion. Faya asked Lee Yoon, did you exploit the target's internal situation to assassinate him? Could it be the branch chief secretly revealed the target only to you beforehand? Lee Yoon sighed. The moment you learned Alok was the target was no different from the two in Paint Han. He is a fairly famous merchant whose identity is clear from his name. According to the two people's information, Alok is a wine merchant and that he recently took a concubine is also true. The details about the guard's ranks and the concubine's bedroom are also accurate. But because you had already investigated those things beforehand while the two of you discussed assassination, you only needed to act according to the pre-prepared plan. Rib and Faya were astonished. Faya angrily said, you said you didn't know who the target was before, but now you say you had investigated Alok before the real test, which is absurd. Lee Yoon replied, I never said I only investigated Alok. You collected information on all the notorious people who needed assassination in this city beforehand, by befriending merchants sensitive to rumors in the city. And because you completed 2 months of training in 1 month, you used the remaining time to ready yourself for each target you had prepared to be able to react immediately whoever the target was. The two heard this helplessly, thinking in other words he didn't just study for the exam but learned the whole book beforehand. Lee Yoon continued, during that process he discovered someone who intensely hated Alok. It was his first wife Kelly. You approached this woman driven to desperation by her husband, and secretly suggested to her a way to resolve it: hire an assassination guild. Alok continually took concubines, though he scorned his first wife yet still used her family's money to sustain the business. Kelly hated him enough to want to kill him but in truth did not want him dead. You told Kelly that if she hired more mercenaries and increased security, Alok would be safe and only the concubine would suffer, and when something happened he would hide in the first wife's room, the safest place in the house. Then she should blame the concubine and her lover for the incident. He would come to his senses and return to her. The woman who drank every day because of her husband easily believed your words. If everything had stopped there it might have gone her way, but just before the assassination plan began you told her one more piece of information. That the money Alok used to buy gifts for the new concubine recently was all money he took from his first wife under the pretense of business funds. Dolce thought in surprise that from the start we all, that's not right, hasn't this test been in that kid's hands for a long time? Rib and Faya stood there in shock, speechless. Dolce wondered, but there was one thing he couldn't understand: no matter how angry she is, how could an ordinary woman like her stab her husband to death? Lee Yoon sneered and replied, because I helped a little. You mixed a metallurgical concoction into the wine delivered to Alok's house and to guard against casualties. You also mixed that drug into the mercenaries' drinking water. Fortunately it took effect at the right moment. Rib asked what drug it was. You replied, it temporarily dulls judgment and makes people easily agitated. Faya was startled. Could it be that the mercenaries fighting among themselves was also because of that? Lee Yoon said yes, although you weren't taught about camaraderie, you didn't want any GUID member or training teammate to be killed. Faya was moved to the point of blushing. Rib beside her was equally touched. Dolce summarized that everything went exactly as you planned, and with the information you provided plus the drug's effect, Madam Kelly killed that Alok in a frenzy. Rib said an assassination doesn't have to be a personal stabbing, right? Dolce happily congratulated you for passing the test, Leon. Lee Yoon smiled. We can also claim additional pay and expenses from Kelly. Dolce blinked. You explained Kelly suddenly became a murderer, but the intruding assassins were real, only you knew Alok was killed by Kelly, not by the assassins. In Kelly's position she would certainly want to pay extra to cover up the truth of her husband's death and to pin the murder on the assassins. Dolce was astonished and speechless. Faya swallowed in terror, thinking it was completely different. Rib cautioned, from an assassin's perspective this is indeed an admirable way to handle it. She would rather vie for second place than compete with Leon. Dolce said the two should return to GUID. Lee Yoon, stay here, he has something to say. Rib and Faya quickly left, leaving the two of them. Dolce hesitated for a moment, then said, do you understand what you've done? The woman named Kelly will have to live with guilt for killing her husband for the rest of her life. She was just an ordinary woman who now became a husband killer. Do you understand that feeling? GUID trains assassins, not monsters. Lee Yoon turned his back and sneered. Before learning the reason Alok kept taking concubines, he also saw her as just an ordinary woman like everyone else. All the concubines Alok took had been dealt with by Kelly. Alok himself ran a flower business, loan sharks and a casino behind the cover of the wine trade, causing countless people to suffer because of him. Kelly had always used her family's influence to deal with the concubines without needing to act directly. Awak was tired of her but kept taking concubines, knowing full well those women would eventually be killed. The bodies of the concubines were staged by Kelly's family as disappearances, so the families of those concubines had no way to know their whereabouts and kept searching every day. But this was only information discovered during your investigation. Even if it was a test, it was still an assassination contract. Even if she no longer wished her husband dead, GUID would only be paid in full when Awak was dead. Whether the target deserved to die or what the hirer's circumstances were not things an assassin needed to care about. You are right. If conscience interfered with assassination, would one still be an assassin, getting paid to kill and then debating the humanity of the reasons and methods whether it was necessary? Dolce looked at Lee Yoon with a stunned, shocked gaze. Kelly never said she didn't want to kill her husband herself. She intended to exploit this assassination contract. Because they had to fulfill the contract in their own way, even if the result was that she would live in misery for killing her husband with her own hands, it did not deny the assassin's involvement in Awak's death this time. Dolce spoke up. Conscience is unnecessary for assassins, isn't it? You replied, if people want to keep their humanity, they must grow strong enough to change their lives from the root. Even if you try to recover your conscience when taking a contract, it changes nothing because you still operate within GUID's assassinations. After saying that, Lee Yoon left, leaving Dolce standing there in thought. The next morning at dawn, in front of GUID's stronghold, everyone wore uniforms and stood in neat lines. Sapphire laughed loudly, congratulating you for passing the exam, Leon. From this moment you are officially a member of Marthong and a 5th-rank assassin. The system appeared announcing the mission was complete. Lee Yoon's body was enveloped in blue light. The announcement continued that his level had increased and he had achieved a side mission. Everyone looked at him, clapped in applause and also to welcome him. The system announced the rewards received for completing the mission. Sapphire explained, from now on, as a 5th-rank assassin you can accept official missions from Marthong. If you meet the conditions you can also apply for promotion, though for now you have no immediate plans to seek promotion. Lee Yoon unexpectedly completed a single mission worth over 30 gold. Sapphire surprised her. Lee Yoon added, either complete 10 5th-rank missions or receive a nomination from the branch chief or a 3rd-rank assassin. Are these the conditions for promotion? Sapphire answered yes. You then asked about the pay for the Awak mission. Everyone hearing this voiced indignation. What game are you playing? Lee Yoon didn't care and continued asking how much. His question and demeanor left Sapphire unsure how to answer. She struggled to answer. 10 gold up front and 10 gold on completion. Faya and Rib both listened in astonishment. She continued, the 10 gold you received was on the condition of concealing that Kelly killed Awak. Dolce widened his eyes, sweating cold, thinking impossible. Lee Yoon covered his mouth and smiled slyly, though it was only a test. Everyone with various expressions listened to him speak. But the following of the mission, completing it and receiving the bonus, were all done by you. Isn't the first promotion condition a single mission worth over 30 gold which you already completed? Sapphire angry gritted her teeth and said, you. Lee Yoon declared, I am 5th-rank assassin Leon. I demand promotion to 4th-rank assassin. Lee Yoon's words left her and everyone there speechless. Sapphire was completely provoked by Lee Yoon. He is really too arrogant. Lee Yoon did not show weakness. He smirked. She continued, she acknowledged all your impressive displays, but you are showing them too much contempt. An organization always has rules and principles. In the assassin world, only from rank 4 upward are you considered genuine. Everyone accumulates experience and capability verified by teammates and prides themselves on reaching rank 4. Sapphire pointed and scolded you for looking down on all of them. Lee Yoon's promotion conditions may not be perfect but are arguably met, yet this behavior only pushes people to oppose you. She will pretend she heard nothing. She thinks maybe you are tired from just finishing your first mission. Lee Yoon cut her off. No, I will not withdraw my promotion application. Sapphire barked, if you want to live well here you must know how to be tactful. Dolce spoke, branch chief. He may be overstepping, but as an observer of the exam can he say a few words? Sapphire looked at Dolce in silence for a moment, then said, go ahead, he may continue. Dolce thought Leon now qualifies to take the promotion test to rank 4. Not because he despises everyone, but more importantly he demonstrated the most important thing in this test. She asked skeptically what was the important thing. He continued that it was pure physical ability. Not planning or anything but assassination skill using physical prowess. Rib and Faya thought silently he succeeded in the assassination thanks to a clever plan. Dolce said, but the rank 4 promotion test cannot be passed without physical ability. this is an opportunity to assess whether Leon has the real strength or to give him a painful lesson. People began to change their thinking that makes sense in the chase game. When joining GUID he also used many traps to escape them. Sapphire covered her mouth and snorted laugh. You've got it. She authorized the promotion test. The rank 4 trial is something even well-prepared assassins must risk their lives for. Sapphire smiled dangerously and asked if you were ready. She and you shook hands tightly. Li Yun returned her confident smile. Yes. Night fell with only light from inside the house. Slamming his beer mug on the table, Dolce said, you are truly talented enough to make hearts skip a beat. At the dining table he looked at you and added, you are too reckless. Faya added, anyway you must have had a target to act like that. Rib added, but you must have had a plan right. The rank 4 test will not take place for at least 1 or 2 months. Ire went out to bring drinks for everyone. Dolce then asked, because you must assign suitable targets and missions for the test, did you want him to train you before that? Li Yun replied, I decline. You plan to rest for a while before the test. Suddenly Rib and Faya shouted loudly, refuse. Li Yun continued, I intend to leave GUID for a time. Once an official member I can leave the branch territory, right? Dolce admitted that's true. Li Yun said he will return before the test, and for news about the trial he can stop by the Marthong branch to check. Dolce was surprised. You're leaving GUID. Is this your plan this time, Leon? You wiped the beer from your mouth and smiled mysteriously. Tonight the sky is full of stars and silent. Inside Dolce's house he raised his beer mug. Yeah, do whatever you want. Drink to your heart's content tonight. Laughter and chatter echoed from the house. Don't force Leon to drink. Li Yun thought to himself, these free moments won't come easily again. From rank 4 upward I'll have to take missions continuously and lose my freedom. My goal is to become branch chief, so there will be no rest. So before entering that battle I must take a trip. And that very night Li Yun decisively set out, mentally prepared to embark on a new journey. He stood on a rocky outcrop gazing at the meadow before him. In his heart he confirmed he had reached the land of darkness, the place of death. Li Yun couldn't hide his excitement, his eyes showing determination to conquer this dark land. Elsewhere a group of riders rushed toward them. It seemed to be a troop escorting some important figure. Leading the group was a red-haired youth named Kenil riding a white steed. As the riders advanced, Kenil suddenly halted. He saw someone sitting in the middle of the road in the distance, none other than Li Yun. He barked roughly, what are you doing? Li Yun moved calmly, his left leg splinted with wood as if injured. Then he slowly removed his hood. Kenil froze when he saw his face. It turned out Li Yun had transformed into a pitiable little boy with tearful pleading eyes. I'm sprained. Could you give me a lift to the village ahead? I can't walk anymore. If it's dark I'll die out here, so I'm sitting here waiting for someone to help. The young man hearing this could only pull at his hair in helplessness and say, this insolent brat. Then he shouted, do you want to die? How dare you block a noble's carriage like this? If we were on urgent duty you'd be killed on the spot. Li Yun gave a faint smile. After a moment he continued, pretending to be pitiful and innocent, and asked, your brother's voice sounds steady like that. He must not be in a hurry, right? You analyze. If he were on official business he'd take the main road, not this one. Kenil, you what? Li Yun teared up again, clasping his hands, begging, consider it a charitable deed, save a life, help me just this once please. This time he could only press his lips in silence. Even the horse wore an expression of helplessness for its master. Suddenly the carriage behind was lit by lamps. A noble's voice called out, Kenil, put the child in the carriage. He immediately objected, absolutely not. The person inside persisted and suggested, then let him sit on the horse. So the next moment we saw Li Yun sitting snugly in Kenil's arms, leaving him stunned in disbelief. A team member immediately teased, Captain, it looks quite fitting, causing him to flush with embarrassment. Then Kenil asked Li Yun's information, what's your name? The boy lied, Leon, I'm from Painthan. He said, thanks to that kind lady I was saved. The lady referred to was the noble inside the carriage. He didn't forget to snap, thank your luck for meeting my lady, making Li Yun only offer an awkward smile. He calculated inwardly, unfortunately this is not luck but the Rose Badge plan, the sign of the Rose family, Saintine Rose, to travel with her. Before setting out I investigated the route to guard against danger, and discovered a member of the Rose family would be traveling the same way. They had lived quietly on the remote border of Paintroy, but suddenly the head of the house died and she was forced into exile. Being a minor border noble, the escorts were not true knights. They were merely household soldiers of the Rose clan, but on the exile route they were made knights to legitimize them. At this point the blue-haired man in the group complained, damn, must the lady endure such hardship? Another replied, indeed, it's all because. Meanwhile Li Yun was also thinking in parallel about the fall of the Rose family. The blue-haired man frowned and continued the unfinished part, it's all because of the Sermin family. Li Yun murmured, recalling what his investigation had uncovered so far. The death of the house head caused Saintine Rose's exile. At this point a doubt arose in his mind. Could the Sermin family be involved in this? Kenil suddenly confronted them. What do you mean it's because of the Sermin family? The blue-haired man hurried to justify, but I've heard the cunning Sermin family murdered the house head to cover up evidence of collusion. Li Yun was equally surprised to hear that. What? By midnight when the moon rose high, they were forced to make a makeshift camp in the forest, pitch tents, and light a small fire to keep warm. One group went to arrange positions for the warhorses. The other group cooked soup and took the chance to rest. Li Yun did the same. He leaned back against a roadside rock to relax for a moment. Then he pondered, based on the interactions with them today. The fall of the Rose family stemmed from a recent conflict between the Sermin house and the Faton house. The Sermin belonged to the kingdom of Dairon, the Faton to Pain's Troy, traditionally hostile nations, but the Rose eldest son became a knight of Sermin, creating a link between the two houses. While patrolling the border of the Land of Darkness he was killed by monsters, and Sermin promised great aid to the Rose house in his memory. Other nobles jealous of the Rose rise allied with the Faton, Sermin's enemy, and used the conflict to act. Behind this clash rumors circulated that the Rose had quietly acted as servants for Sermin, and the Sermin family murdered the Rose house head to silence him. The Rose protested that this was an assassination plot by the Ani house, but before Faton's power they were helpless. With the loss of their head the Rose house collapsed and was forced into exile to another continent. Those who knew the truth of the matter. Only Kenil the newly knighted and some remaining loyalists are beside Saintine Rose, but they are merely makeshift knights hastily assembled by Kenil. Li Yun suddenly thought of Miss Saintine Rose. This exile will not be easy at all. In the quiet dark space the knights remained on guard. Miss Saintine Rose got a little time for peaceful sleep. Outside Kenil was recounting the old story, moreover the glance of the Ani house's second son as he looked at the lady. The villains were not the Sermin but the bastards of the Faton and Ani houses. Indeed this exile was only possible because Sermin obtained asylum permission from the kingdom of Dairon. Li Yun beside them listened silently while intently eating to quell his hunger. Kenil gradually regained his spirits. He laughed, then threw a branch into the fire and said, "The Sermin house even squeezed out their last strength to give more support." Having heard the whole story the gang members grew more enthusiastic. The blue-haired one cheerfully said, "Because the Sermin family is kind, raise your cups." Suddenly another member noticed Li Yun and offered him an extra bowl of soup. "Kid, want another bowl?" He happily agreed. "Yes sir," the man asked. "You must be bored since this doesn't concern you, right?" Li Yun politely replied. "Very interesting." Actually in his heart he had long thought he was deeply connected to the Sermin house. Then Li Yun suddenly voiced his concern. "But is this really okay on an exile route to bring a child like me along and let me hear all these stories?" The knight heard this and grew a little annoyed. "Did you plot to block the road to beg for help?" causing Li Yun to feel struck in the chest, sweating and dodging. At that moment another member came to his rescue saying, "It's fine, it seems after a bit of heart-to-heart Captain Kenil feels more at ease." The blue-haired one then opined that after all the one suffering most is Miss Saintine Rose. Li Yun agreed. Indeed the main issue is Saintine Rose. Kenil and the other knights, perhaps due to inexperience, did not recognize the seriousness of this chain of events. He calmly closed his eyes and thought of the future, even the danger about to befall them. Thinking of the malicious cunning faces of the Faton and Ani houses, Li Yun knew full well they had colluded. They would not stop at taking the life of the Rose family head. Especially the second son of the Ani house, though under 20, already had 3 assassination contracts from organizations wanting him dead. Truly worthless. "But I refuse those contracts as not worth the effort anyway. It shows he's a bastard who bullies the weak. They said he is very serious about self-protection, so hard to assassinate." Li Yun briefly imagined the scenario if such a person targeted Saintine Rose. Then, this is no time to camp leisurely like this. Suddenly Li Yun sensed a figure lurking atop the cliff in the distance. So he sprinted swiftly to another vantage point to observe. This time the feeling was confirmed. Indeed they had a tailing party. He hesitated whether to deal with them now. No, they had likely reported their numbers en route to the mastermind already. Better to spend time setting traps to slow their pursuit, which would be more effective. Time passed in an instant. When Li Yun rejoined the knights everyone looked at him blankly and curiously. "Hey kid, why is your hair caked with mud?" He gave an awkward smile. "I just slipped and fell." The knights didn't think much, only telling him, "You were injured in the leg enough to beg us for help, so sit and rest and recover." Everyone complacently left, not noticing Li Yun hiding boundary shifting tools. He had dug many holes along the way he planned. I have set enough traps along the road to slow the pursuing force. I have gathered the necessary information, so I'll stay with them only until the next village. Consider it repaying the bowl of soup. So he went to sleep at ease. By the next morning when the sun was high, everyone continued the journey unfinished. Li Yun took his leave of the knights. Thank you all for letting me ride with you so far. Camille asked. The destination is Dasong village, right? What is a kid like you doing near the dark area? Li Yun fairly proudly replied, I may look it, but I do a bit of trading. I buy monster materials in Dasong and sell them in Dairon. The young man at the front teased. The roads part, so we must part ways here. Suddenly Camille brought a small vial before Li Yun. Here, drink this before the sun sets. The lady asked me to give it to you. You asked in confusion. Did the lady really give this to me? Glimpsed at the carriage window we saw Saintine Rose smiling and waving goodbye to Li Yun. Camille put on an embarrassed face. He ruffled his hair and added, the lady also sent her thanks for giving us moments of peace. Hearing that, you could only widen your eyes in surprise. Then understanding the moment had come, you had to say farewell. Thank you, I'm really leaving now. Hearing this, Camille expressed this. If you need help, find us in Dairon, but even if you need it, don't come to us. A tease from afar praised him. The captain may say that, but he's very kind. Even without the lady's orders he'll help you. Only he's a bit hard to approach. Camille embarrassed urged, so what are you waiting for? Aren't you leaving? Li Yun silently watched their backs recede into the distance. He sighed looking at the small vial in his hand. Then he opened the stopper, poured it straight into his mouth without hesitation, until only a few drops remained on the ground. Suddenly there was an explosion in the distance, black smoke billowing. Countless hoofbeats kept thundering closer. A troop of tall masked riders dashed past Li Yun. Before he had time to understand what was happening, he analyzed. There were 6 pursuing soldiers, after them 2 common mercenaries, 2 novice swordsmen each large and muscular, and a troublesome mage as well. He looked toward a man with a conspicuous aura. Li Yun guessed the other masked one was certainly a noble. It was the second son of the Ani house, Gruda Ani. At that moment he smiled triumphantly. For a moment he and Li Yun passed each other. The expressions of both were revealed, each harboring their own schemes. He coldly glanced to scrutinize the belligerent group. Seeing them ride off, the atmosphere soon returned to calm, no longer noisy like before. He assessed the pursuers' skill exceeded his estimates. The traps seemed insufficient to hold them, so I still haven't repaid the bowl of soup. Moreover, I even drank the vial too. Looking at the empty bottle in his hand, he was surprised. It was a high-grade recovery potion, at least 20 silvers a vial. Li Yun smiled helplessly. He recalled such a precious item given to a kid he'd only known one night while her life hung by a thread. What made the lady so generous? In reality, the Rose house had no chance. They would kidnap Saintine Rose and slaughter the rest. Though what I did now is a bit much for the price of a bowl of soup. Counting the potion, it's at least a deposit. If they pursue the fleeing carriage, more will die, so I ask you to help with one task. Then he cast a spell and summoned a mysterious creature. When it fully appeared, he ordered its first task, Kornak. As for the knights group, at this time everyone had already traveled quite a distance. Then from behind the sound of hoofbeats grew increasingly dense. Camille keenly detected an unusual noise, so he ordered everyone to hurry up. The other knights were still bewildered. Camille turned his horse close to the carriage and instructed Saintine Rose, Miss, please endure a bit, even if the carriage jolts you must bear with it. The blue-haired fellow wondered, Captain, why suddenly? But before he could finish speaking, Camille's expression turned more serious. He shouted that the pursuers were drawing near. Those with mana are pursuing us closely. Camille pointed ahead and issued orders. The border is right there, everyone hurry up. Then he called 2 other members by name, Chaku, Gayan. If they catch up, you 2 must escort the lady straight to the border. Once across the border, even the Ani house won't dare to touch us. They won't risk conflict with Dairon border troops just to capture the lady. And then the whole group accelerated under Camille's command. Run, we will hold them off. He charged ahead, steeling himself for the coming battle. Chaku still reluctantly called out, Captain, Gayan seems more level-headed. He gritted his teeth and obeyed. See you at the border. Camille relaxed his face slightly. He sighed, then quickly summoned more courage, turned back to fight the enemy. He told himself, the Ani knights are not worth confronting, and I am a knight of the Rose house. The brawny men of the Ani house were still moving eagerly forward. Gruda suddenly halted. A sword with fierce momentum sliced across the ground to block their path. A strong voice rang out, stop right there. Camille without fear ordered, who are you to dare chase the Rose family's carriage? Withdraw at once. If you refuse to retreat, I will show no mercy and behead you. Gruda laughed with delight. The soldiers behind showed no sign of concern. He sneered and asked, behead us. Do you think being knighted gives you the right to lord it over others? Then he raised his hand to remove his hood, revealing his identity, which left Camille stunned and stammering. Gruda Ani. A swordsman behind anxiously said, "Young master, don't reveal yourself." Gruda smiled confidently, "Anyway we must kill them all, except Saintine Rose." Then he flashed a cunning, sinister grin and ordered, "Capture her alive before they reach the border." The subordinates quickly accepted the task, obeying orders. They immediately rode their horses charging forward, causing Keneal to freeze for a moment. He raised his sword into a combat stance, "Don't even try." But when he struck, Keneal could not stop those swordsmen. He felt like hallucinating, only seeing the enemy's forms pass through his body. Then he realized among them was a mage, and a mage of at least second rank. Keneal bitterly spat out a mouthful of blood. Gruda on the other side said smugly, "Rest assured, my fellow knights will handle it." Just as Keneal collapsed coughing, a foot stepped up to block in front of him. It was a familiar face. Gruda declared, "Anyway you will die here." Keneal could hardly believe it. He stood up and demanded, "Captain Sisso, why would the former captain of the Rose Knights?" Gruda interrupted before he finished speaking, "Why, because of money. Of course the Rose family is destroyed. He can't wait to starve. This is just entertainment. Indulge us for fun." After saying that, Sisso accelerated forward. Two men who once fought on the same side now pointed swords at each other. Keneal remained displeased. "Haven't you abandoned the knightly code?" Sisso paid no heed and replied, "The world has changed. Keneal Paintroy has no place for knighthood anymore." Then in a careless moment he was knocked and his sword thrown away by the former captain. His voice cold, "Surrender. There will be war soon. With your abilities you can still find a new master." Keneal did not show weakness. He retorted forcefully, "Shut that ungrateful mouth." Gruda watched then cut in. "So what? Finish this quickly. By now they have likely captured Saintine Rose." At this moment Sisso's blade was at Keneal's throat. He remarked casually, "Just you alone." Suddenly someone's sword slashed through, striking Sisso's back and knocking him to one side. Gruda gritted his teeth and turned his head. A blue creature was hovering before everyone's eyes. It turned out to be Cornac. Luckily it arrived just in time. Sisso, still unaware of the situation, shouted, "Who dares?" Cornac spoke little and unleashed another barrage of attacks. Hundreds of arrows struck directly at the Ani men. In no time the area was shaken by a powerful explosion. The mage maintaining a barrier to protect Gruda was terrified. "I tried to block with mana but it was too strong." Poor Sisso fared worse. He was hit directly, his limbs mangled, blood pouring from his mouth. Cornac now seemed like the embodiment of Li Yun, spreading an ecstatic smile, returning to the area near the border. Everything lay in ruin, the blood of the defeated strewn everywhere. Saintine Rose's carriage had a broken wheel. The draft horses had collapsed. Chaku and Gayan, though wounded, fought until their last breath. They understood they could not withstand them. The Ani men jeered smugly, "You pretend to be knights for show. We don't fear cutting you, so you'd better obediently disappear." Gayan, helpless, "Our force cannot match them." Even the swordsman. A voice from the carriage rang out, "Stop." The lady stepped down. Gayan, "Chaku, you have all done your best." Guion, surprised to see her, tried to prevent her. "Miss, if you go out will." Saintine Rose drew a dagger and declared, "I will go with you, so spare the lives of the others. Otherwise I will perish with you and make you regret it." Then she pressed the blade to her neck, eyes resolute, "Surely your masters would not want this either." The leader looked at the girl Saintine Rose and smiled as he explained, "It seems you are mistaken. If you haven't reached Dayron then you are neither nobility nor an ally." Hearing that she froze, her eyes wide in shock. The old man continued, "What I mean is there is no reason for me to obey you." Just as Saintine Rose was still bewildered, another man had crept up unnoticed. He grabbed her hair roughly and snatched the knife. He said, "Do you know what happens if you resist a mana knight? I'll show you the consequences." Chaku and Gayan, seeing this, only had time to shout, "Milady." At that moment Saintine Rose closed her eyes, preparing to accept the pain, when from afar a figure came rushing like thunder. Li Yun, who a moment ago had been faking a leg brace, now delivered a kick that broke the swordsman's jaw. Saintine Rose was stunned, tears welling up but stopping. Then Li Yun landed in a cool pose after felling one of the Ani men. The leader, seeing this, lunged forward. "That one." Li Yun didn't care. He looked at the pathetic man with contempt. "I plan to pay for medicine this way, but with such a pitiful opponent there will be plenty of spare cash." Saying that, he raised his knife. With a cold gaze he asked Saintine Rose, "Hey, if you already paid me a deposit in medicine and food, do you now want to pay the rest to hire the assassin Marthong Tin to take action?" Saintine Rose suddenly recognized the assassin's name, Marthong. Li Yun, wanting her to recall, only smiled nonchalantly. The leader was sharper. He knew that alias, so he questioned, "Why are you helping Saintine Rose? If it's Marthong Tin then he's the direct successor of Asin." Only then did Saintine Rose understand. "So he's someone from GUID sent to assassinate Marthong." So she immediately quoted a price, "I'll pay 30 gold. Li Yun grinned maliciously, quick thinking, "Good, but..." He turned and replied, "Too little. 30 gold is only enough to deal with the knight in front of us. Saintine Rose froze. Li Yun analyzed, to deal with the second man of the family, the former captain of the Rose Knights and even the level 3 mage. Then this sum is far too little. The leader could not bear it, he broke into a sweat. This bastard. Li Yun urged, you'd better answer quickly, if the contract fails I have no reason to stay here. Saintine Rose was flustered, she thought of those who had protected her then calculated, if this man leaves here the exile plan will collapse. She remembered the family banner, her hand involuntarily clenched, if it's to protect the Rose family then. Then she trembled as she made her decision. She gritted her teeth as if steeling her resolve, then spoke loudly, whatever you want, please. Li Yun smiled with pleasure, he grabbed the hood, and pulled it down to reveal a face full of excitement saying, I accept. The leader lowered his eyes, this one claims to be an assassin yet dares to show his face. Then Li Yun held the spear and performed a technique with one hand while opening his mouth to reply, I've heard assassins shouldn't reveal themselves, but that's only the mindset of cowardly people lacking ambition. A true assassin never makes mistakes. Finishing his words he leapt up. In the blink of an eye a streak of green flashed through the air. At the end point I only saw mere spurts of blood erupting at a speed imperceptible to the naked eye. You plunged the dagger straight into the leader's body without giving him time to guard himself, Li Yun continued, so even if I reveal myself I can still hold my head high. Saintine Rose was also shocked by this swift, neat display. Looking at the young man before her, she thought, my first official contract in the Marthong Guild. The price for it is the entire Rose family. Li Yun smiled slyly, I need to establish my reputation. The leader strained to argue back, don't talk nonsense. You think we swordsmen will be easily defeated, then he burst into a mocking laugh. Li Yun frowned, we. Suddenly from behind you, another swordsman raised his blade to strike secretly, die. In the air the sounds of wind blades gradually arose. Li Yun quickly sprang up and dodged the enemy's deadly strike. He landed safely, and the other man also straightened up quickly. He spoke, criticizing the leader, how long do you plan to lie there? The opponent is Marthong's assassin from the Asin family, you are the one who should not be complacent. After regaining his momentum the leader teamed up with the other to fight to the death, accepting a request from the Rose family, you chose wrong, with our trademark position-swapping swordsmanship at the perfect moment. We will make you regret that decision. With that they both charged forward. Li Yun smiled calmly, exhaling a taunting line, oh really? Then he activated Dominance Physique and Accelerated Physique, and he dashed straight at the two chickens before him. With gentle affection he unleashed a kick. They still couldn't understand that phantom clones are a magic technique, but why can't I sense the flow of mana? The hooded one was planning a counterattack, he shouted. But the leader barked, stop striking randomly, coordinate your counterattack at the right moment, because our situation is awkward, we can't tell which is the real body among the surrounding illusions. Li Yun smugly, you're already too late. He slid before the hooded man, who was bewildered looking left and right. The leader shouted, phantom clones are a magic technique. He doubted, but why can't I sense the flow of mana? At that moment he had already slid behind him. He shouted and wildly swung his sword to prevent Li Yun from attacking. He turned his head, stop striking randomly, coordinate your counterattack at the right moment. He slid before the leader, too late, because I activated the weakening skill of the body, destroying and impairing your hearing. A deep blue mana stream shot straight into his eyes and nose. He gritted his teeth, a curse-type skill, this one, do you even have the power of a soul fox shaman? A spray of red blood spurted up, followed by a scream of pain. With just 2 slashes, those two had their heads sent to meet their ancestors. Li Yun flicked his hand, blood spraying like rain, taste the pain of the unjustly dead souls from the Jose family. The sun gradually set behind the mountains, the sunset light dyeing the mountain foot golden. Their corpses were wrapped in red cloth and loaded onto horses. Heavy footsteps moved forward, trailing streaks of blood after the long battle. It was Keneal, he dragged his tired body, but wore a delighted smile, milady. Tears of joy streamed down, is everyone hurt? Saintine Rose heard the cry and turned her head. Keneal. Seeing him, she clenched her hands with emotion, you're really okay, thank goodness. Seeing him, Li Yun only curved a mysterious smile. He turned to Gayan and Chaku, Gayan Chaku are you two all right? Chaku was astonished, could it really be that you defeated the pursuers? Keneal angrily pointed at the two and scolded, do I look pathetic to you? Both went pale and waved their hands, no I mean. He leaned forward, behind him was Cornac, I received unexpected help from a mage. He excitedly killed the traitor and the mage and even captured that Gruta alive. Saintine Rose looked at him and said, could it all be thanks to? Li Yun looked down, beneath his hand a formation was being cast. Then he reached out, the formation emitted a blinding blue light. Cornac vanished, the Gruta lost his magic and collapsed with a thud to the ground. Keneal turned to him, you're Leon right, why did you? She smiled, the brat who claimed to be Marthong's assassin. He was surprised to hear that, Marthong. He sighed recalling the image of the mage being cut down. Indeed, the mage deserved the humiliation of being defeated. Gruta, bruised and lying to one side, was equally surprised. Marthong. He cried out joyfully, if you spare me I'll pay double the promised sum, no not triple. Then he turned to Saintine Rose and cursed, it seems your Saintine Rose played a sly trick, but the Assassin Guild's rule is to accept gold from clients, not people, right? Li Yun grew a bit angry hearing his babble, he raised both hands, too noisy. With a slash the Gruta's body was cleaved in two, he only had time to shout once then died. He blew the remaining mana from his hands toward the two, just hand over the money, do you dare treat me like a mediocre assassin? Then he stepped in front of her to intimidate, okay milady Saintine Rose, what reward did you promise? Remember Marthong never forgives those who break their word. Li Yun threatened in jest, you know well what the assassin's path is like. She trembled before the murderous aura he radiated, of course. But then he reconsidered, he changed his mind, I'm not demanding it right now, I understand the Rose family's situation at the moment, it's just. Saintine Rose heard that and sweat ran down her forehead. He smiled, if you can formally submit a request to pay 30 go to Marthong I'll be very grateful, the rest shall remain a verbal agreement between us. She nodded in agreement with Li Yun, alright. Li Yun bade farewell, now steady your nerves and continue your journey. Marthong will handle these corpses after you leave, if border troops ask just say you were attacked by bandits and it'll be fine. Gayan and Chaku looked at him with grateful eyes upon hearing his words. Both smiled, alright, Keneal exclaimed, that was handled neatly. He thought and then spoke, Leon, you. Li Yun heard him call and turned his head. He smiled then snapped his fingers, mana appeared, his body was lifted into the air by magic, then vanished before the two's astonished eyes. Chaku jumped at the sight, gone already. Looking at the lingering mana stream, Keneal was stunned, a Marthong assassin. He closed his eyes and waved his hand, perhaps that's not the whole truth. Saintine Rose uttered a gasp. He explained his conjecture, Li Yun claimed to be an assassin, but what he summoned was not ordinary. Keneal recalled Cornac with his terrifying magical power. The explosion from its attack had indeed been very powerful. He remembered Li Yun's gaze, they could even speak, albeit briefly. Cornac's delighted and somewhat deranged expression flashed up. Keneal continued, moreover he also defeated Siso and the mage. His voice grew smaller and smaller, almost at the same time. Saintine Rose stood to one side fearful as she heard the recounting. Now his face wore an excited expression, someone who can control undead of that level. A terrifying face appeared in his mind, it must be the legendary soul summoner Veda. That face remained only as a skeleton, a dense mana flow emitted from its eyes and mouth or from his disciple.